Okay, people, my apologies for being late. I can't find my notes. I have videos. I don't know where they are. I was trying to find it before I started the live, but I'm lost. I can't. So let us see if I can. All my videos for the day. I had them. They were there. Let me go to recently deleted. No. No. Jesus, what did I do? It could only be here. I've got one folder for this stuff. Oh, okay. I gave it a bad name. I didn't name it the same name as the string. That's why I couldn't find it. Oh, God.
Okay. It was lost, but now it's found.
Yeah, it was lost, but now it's found. Boy, found my notes. I'm like, man, I had a whole thing.
Hallelujah.
Hello again.
Hallelujah. Hello.
Brikeshi. All right, y'all. Cool. We here. Now, listen. This conversation is going to start with a sidebar. Today's conversation is supposed to be about can you be pro-choice and Christian? I got some videos we're going to come to. But we started a discussion yesterday that Yellow was kind of coming back to. And I wanted to see if he had any residual thoughts or pushback that he wanted to go back and forth with. So if anybody's watching this on the replay, skip ahead about 30 minutes, give or take. Because we're probably, if he says yes. So wait a minute. Let's see what he says. If he says yes, skip ahead about 30 minutes. God, we don't do the timestamps around here anymore. Skip ahead about 30 minutes. Let's see if we're still talking about the same thing. We're still talking about the same thing. Give it another 30 minutes. But by an hour, we should be to today's topic. If you're watching the replay.
Right. we'll timestamp it for you. Wink, wink. No, in a sense, but yeah, because we was talking about it, so I don't want to leave the conversation
dangling.
Just dangling. Yeah. Peter Pause. But y'all kind of went into it a little bit after I had left and dropped down.
You go up.
Now you good.
I think she was talking to somebody in the crib, wherever she was at.
Yeah. But now, so we was kind of talking about, we were somewhere around the evidence part.
Okay, let's go.
And I think y'all was talking about what was said. Y'all was finally get around to what was said in the Discord.
Gotcha.
Which had piqued my interest to keep the conversation going. And it was about questioning the faith practice is oxymoronic, or looking for proofs in a faith practice is oxymoronic.
Okay.
Right. And a lot of how we can't use the bad in the world as an excuse on why God don't exist.
Okay. Let me see. Maybe I can make that a ticker. See if that still does the thing. All right.
So I don't know which one of them you kind of want to tackle first.
Okay, so let me write that down real quick. Hold up. Boom. So about using the negativity or the evil in the world.
Right.
So repeat those two. Using evil out of the world as a dismissal.
Right. Right. You and then looking for proof in a faith-based practice is impossible.
Okay, looking for evidence. Okay, cool. All right, I'll just go with the way I typed them in. So using evil as a dismissal, I kind of touched on that in the last conversation because it's like the Jedi thing, the Jedi Sith thing. Like it's written into the story. It's a good triumphs over evil. So for good to triumph over evil, the evil has to like take root. The evil has to take root in the across the empire, across the long ago, far away. Evil has to reign for good to triumph. Otherwise, it's not a triumph. It's just a. So that's the whole point and premise. So using evil to dismiss why a person would believe in God, like if that was the sole point, I know there's a lot attached around it and a lot of other reasons, but if that
Hmm.
was the sole reason, for me, it would be a silly reason because that's the plot of the story. Like, so to like, man, because there's so much evil, I can't believe in God. I mean, like you've lost the plot. Like,
Right.
so that would be that's my pushback on that point alone. But I know that's not the only point of contention. But if that was the sole point, somebody said, "Well, if there's evil in the world, why? How can the God of the Bible let this evil exist?" And it's like, well, it's in the Bible that the evil is going to exist, and why the evil is going to exist, and how it's going to end. Like that's all written down. So
Right.
that's that's my pushback on that.
Right. So I guess my thing with that would be then we can't use the evidence of him existing through the good that's been done either. Because for a lot of people, the idea of God being real is what I know God real because of what he did for me and how he brought me to say it was a comment in the stream before. Well, buddy was like, yeah, if Jesus wasn't real, I'd be in jail and doing
Yep.
all this. And well, you know what? There's also laws that stop you from being in jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's other steps that would stop you from doing the thing that you would do, right? Or that pulled you out of that, right? Because I would assume that being in jail, no matter what your belief structure would be, ain't really the best. You know what I'm saying? Best situation to
Yeah.
be in.
But
You
that
know what I'm saying?
laws don't stop people. We know laws don't stop people.
Ooh, right. And
And
clearly the laws of the
I
Bible don't
understood
stop
that.
people either.
I under, I understood that to mean his experience of Jesus changed his life. I mean,
Yeah.
that's more than likely
Right.
what that means. Like his experience of Jesus changed his life, and if he hadn't had that experience, he would not be who he is today.
Mhm.
Right. But more towards my point is notice how it's acceptable to use the evidence of good as to why it exists, but you can't use the evidence of all the evil as to why they don't exist. Right. Like
Yeah.
so
But real quick, can
hold
I
on, wait.
interrupt you?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Like both good and evil are present in the story. So both of them would actually be affirmative to this narrative of the Bible. Like so saying that one present means the Bible doesn't exist would be weird. Like saying like we have Jedi, that proves that we have a Star Wars, and we have Sith. That proves that we
Right.
have Star Wars. Like both Jedi and Sith come from the Jedi story. So saying that, well, because there's Sith, there's no Star Wars, that's weird. Like that would be like, I don't even know what to call that kind of thinking. Like, well, the Sith exists, so there can't be Star Wars. I don't even know what to
Hmm.
call that because Jedi and Sith are both Star Wars characters. Like they're both Star Wars properties. So good and evil are both Bible properties. So the existence of a Bible property should not mean the Bible doesn't exist or isn't real. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I
Right.
mean when I say that.
My thing would be
I don't
more of
know.
the intervention in said good and evil,
I
right?
got you.
Because it's also presented that, well, he said that evil was going to exist, so why would he intervene in the evil? Why he jump up to stop the evil? But again, most people's proclamation or testimony to why God exists is on how he intervened on their part, is what I'm saying. So the intervention of God helping you so that's, you know what I'm saying? Like you could tell me that he can intervene for you in particular,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes to the explanation of, well, okay, well, why did he let this child die of cancer? Well, we can't question his decision and we can't use the fact that he didn't do nothing. Oh, well, see, come on now.
Yeah. But I think
You
those
know
are
what I'm
Christians
saying?
who have more of a just world theory. I think those are conflated. The Bible doesn't promise that believing in God will equal all the good in your life. And it does not say that all the good in your life is because of God. Some of the good in your life is because of the work of your own hands, just as much as the bad is. So that is a popular belief, but that would be found under a just world theory belief more so than that's what the Bible says. So like I understand a lot of people do believe that all the good in my life is from God and all it's not is from the devil. Like, but that is not biblically accurate for multiple reasons, because that you also are a factor in your own life. You can reap what you sow just as much as you can benefit from what you sow. So I would say those people believe more in the just world theory, which is my belief in God equals good. So all the good things come from God, and if it's not good, it's not from God. I mean, that's what you're talking about, it sounds like. But that is, I'm just here to say that's not biblically accurate.
Mm-hmm. And just going back to that analogy real quick, like, because I really think the Star Wars one is a perfect analogy, because intervention by the Jedi happens, but so does intervention by the Sith. You know, the Sith would come to a place, but there's also like other factions, the Imperialists. You had the separationists.
The rebellion,
like there were
right.
factions. Yeah, you had rebellion. You had different factions. Some skewed more towards good, but the ultimate good in the universe was the Jedi, allegedly, and the ultimate evil was the Sith. Right. So it was all a matter of perspective, and depending on how you lean, like it's the same thing with God and the Christians and the devil and I would say the Satanists. Like there
right.
are factions all the way towards the middle between those extremes. And yes, there are interventions by the Jedi, so that would be like, oh, the Jedi are good. But then there are also examples of where the Jedi's hubris and their arrogance cause people to be harmed, or their their passivity, like, well, we don't get involved in these type of conflicts, have allowed other people to be harmed under their jurisdiction and their watch. Like, so there are people that would be like, I would say that's like the church hurt people. Like, why would God allow that to happen? And, you know, like, so all of this exists in the same universe, but none of it disproves the universe. Like, because it's all a part of that universe. All of that exists. Like, everything you said exists in the same universe without contradiction. Like, all of it exists because there are different factions, and people experience those factions differently depending upon what world or part of the galaxy they live in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody's not going to experience God as good either.
Yeah,
that can be said. Like, I mean, we were talking about that, and I was having that side conversation with y'all. David was God's person, but they was in war constant. I mean, they were constantly fighting at one point, constantly fighting. It would have been shitty to be up under David. Like, to be a peasant in his kingdom for a time probably was trash, even though he was chosen by God. So I don't think that's not what I believe. I don't believe that all the good things are God and all the bad things are not. I mean, I believe he has a net positive end goal that he is heading towards. I don't think it's, you know, I see him kind of like He Who Remains in Loki. Kind of like more
sitting
so
there
like
holding
that.
everything together.
Holding it together, intervene only if it's an extinction event.
Yeah.
You know, or ultimately guiding us along so we don't extinct ourselves, because we're really good at that. So that's kind of like some net positive. Not saying that is the ultimate goal, but something like that, where there will be some ultimate goal and he's holding it together, intervention when necessary to keep either a certain group of people from going extinct. I have no idea what the mission is, but that's what it feels more. It would be more of an accurate statement to me. That's just my belief. But
Yeah.
I do know what Yeller is saying is how most Christians present their belief.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that's not true.
Yeah, because that's the angle of the Jedi. Like, oh no, we're all good. We're benevolent.
Yeah.
We're only here to help. We only do good. But we also know from the story that that's where the clone troopers came from, through some dark forces working within the Jedi. And you know, so I mean, there's darkness there, but they quiet it. They say that's not a part of them. They deny it, but it happens under their watch, and it comes sometimes from their faction. And they actually like the Sith. A lot of the people who become Sith were trained by a Jedi. So they take those skills and realize that there's problems within the Church of the Jedi and go dark with it because they realize the faults there. So it's like, I love that analogy, but it's like there's a lot of the same problems that we have in the world, analogous to the Star Wars universe. So that's exactly what a lot of people get honed in the church. They learn how to manipulate. They learn how to do all these different things. They learn how to use force, and then they take it and go dark with it because they got hurt in church. Didn't get to be a master. I can't be a master.
Right.
I'm the best preacher in here.
I didn't know if Yellow was going to say something, but it sounded like his mic did something funky. So I was trying to make
Like
sure.
his mic pop.
He was, that's what I was like. It sounded like his mic pop. But yeah.
That's my explanation. Like to that point.
Same.
Like the evil and the good both exist. And one doesn't negate the presence of either one doesn't negate the story.
Yeah. It's part of the story, I would say. Because honestly, without that story, good and evil, I'd say, as we generally speak of, it wouldn't exist.
If people treated it like a story, I probably wouldn't have a problem.
I mean,
So
yeah.
all of that, so all of this logic, like it's not a point of me saying y'all logic is wrong. It's the fact that y'all are still presenting a story.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the Bible as people's experience of God. It's a collection of people who. I mean, it's testimony. It's a witness. It's the experiences of how they experienced him through time, and then through those multiple stories. Yeah, religion will say it is fact because religion was established to dominate and have power over people. So you got to have a rule book. You got to have a code of conduct if you're gonna control people. Yeah.
But
so for you, it's the presentation of it as fact, and actual.
Right. The rule book is the fact, and the proof of the fact is the rule book existing.
Yeah.
So it's like all of these like principles and understanding are still coming from a book that's based on stories.
Mm-hmm. The testimony of witnesses of other people, how they experience God.
Right. So we would still have to accept that.
Yep. Hotline bling.
Yeah.
We would still have to accept that that's real. We would still have to accept that everything being said is 100% real.
Depending on what perspective you come from.
See,
if you come from a religious perspective,
okay. Here's the thing, though. They still would have to exist because the understanding of existence is making all of this possible. So even if the perspective is from a Christian, semi-Christian, part-time Christian, the foundation of that is that this is this ain't Law and Order, where the
Christians
names of the people.
As a Christian, I generally believe that the stories in the Bible happened in some capacity. I generally believe that. Yes.
Right.
If that's what you're saying.
Right. And that's the difference between a book, a fictional book, and what's it, almanac. You know what I'm saying? We're presenting a book of stories also as an almanac. You know what I'm saying?
I would look at it as a historical document, if you may. But it's in prose. It's not written in prose. Like it's not an almanac. It's not like an encyclopedia. It's more told in a story. But
right, but that's how it's being treated, though. Right, that's also how it's being treated. So it's kind of sketchy when you say, well, it's just inspirational stories. They're just stories within a book. You know what I'm saying? But it's minimizing it, but telling me that it's true. Like, well, they're just stories. They're just second.
Like an inspirational, like Aesop's fables. I don't see it as a book of fables. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't see it that way. I see it as historical stories. Like, I see them as they actually happened.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to do.
And that's probably where my like idea falls apart.
You don't accept them as they happened.
I mean, I would love to accept them. I would love to accept them.
Fable.
Yeah, because there's not too much. I'm not gonna say no. There's not too much tangible evidence of a lot of the stories within this within this book. There's not too much we can reach back to actually confirm. So I get I get it's a faith thing. You got to have faith, of course, but that's the selling point of the thing. Is to basically release all logic and put your faith in this.
Well, I will say I don't know how people in the church learn the Bible. I don't really know. I didn't grow up in the church. I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and they study the Bible all the time. And a lot of the studies we have, like when we would sit and go to our Monday book studies, would have historical things to go along with what you were reading. So they would show historical artifacts of the kings mentioned, the coins mentioned. They would give you cultural references of this is how it was while we were actually reading the story to ground us in history. Um, for my children's school, who is a Christian school, their history lessons are also like that. They don't only learn about the Bible, they learn about world history that was happening alongside the time of the Bible to help them get context to it. So I don't know how people in the church learn the Bible, but I can't be a good like feel for that because I grew up learning the Bible along with its historical context.
Right. And I'm with that. Like, I need the historical context to be directly connected to the story that I'm hearing, though, because I can understand that the world existed at that time and people lived a certain way, right? But if the historical context ain't, it's at this point got to be a 1-to-1 correlation of the story that I'm hearing. You know what I'm saying? Give me show me the thing we're talking about. Like if we're talking about, I don't know, what's a story in the Bible with a trinket or like
The Ark
like
of the
the guy,
Covenant.
right,
Yeah.
right, the Ark of the Covenant, right? It I need to be able to see that and understand that and do all these, you know what I'm saying? It needs to be things that are 1-to-1 because I can understand that Jerusalem was a place that existed a long time ago and people lived a certain way. And I get all that. But that doesn't prove the story that you're telling me. You know what I'm saying? That
I
still
don't think
doesn't.
So you're
anything exists to the degree you're looking for, but what I will say is there are his biblical, like there are people who are Christian who are historians who make it their life mission to find pieces of the ark, find this, find that. Of course, every artifact mentioned in the Bible cannot be found because they weren't at the time. A lot of the stuff that was happening in the Bible, this wasn't the main religion, right? Most of the time, this was like this is a small group of people who are living their life differently from the major religions. So there would have been
mhm.
up until the point where the temple was really built, there would have been no one really preserving the artifacts that you hear about in a lot of the Old Testament, just because these people were one nomadic and also they weren't the major religion where their trinkets would be seen as held in such a high regard to be preserved. So, I mean, that's going to be hard for, some of those earlier stories, but there are people who spend their life trying to find artifacts from the Bible and connect them to the stories. And there are artifacts they have found in relation to the Bible. But it sounds like you want something deeper, like, well, from this story, I want to see this or that. And I mean, while that's valid, I also am not like a big Bible history buff. I don't really look into it like that
Mhm.
now. So there could be stuff I'm just not aware of. But I don't know if what you're looking to the degree you're looking for exists. But I also won't say that it doesn't because it's not something I check on. It's not something I look for.
Yeah. And I would also point out like that as a group of people, they were also not just biblically. Like there's historical like mainstream evidence of this. They were people that were displaced by other groups of people. They were surrounded by larger masses of people. The Syrians, the Persians, go by Babylonians, like all the groups that went by different names. To the point that in 1960, 1975 the Jews were resettled back into Jerusalem where they are now because they were not there in their homeland, because they had been displaced throughout time and history repeatedly. And the most recent time that was even resolved, the reason there's a Jewish state now, where they're talking about Israel Palestine, is because several powerful groups in the world in our parents' lifetime put Israel back where their home used to be. Like that's how often they get displaced and how recently they were displaced because they didn't even have their homeland until the night was that the 20th
Yeah, whenever
century.
they,
Like,
the whole the beef we at now, where they basically were giving back the land from the people
mhm.
that took them.
So having
But I
the
mean, there's
trinkets, having
historical
having their
evidence
artifacts, that's difficult.
of the first temple. There, I mean, there's things like post temple. You're a little bit better able to find like the
Yeah.
artifacts of the temple, evidence of that stuff. But pre temple, well, they actually rebuilt it twice. So I think so. I mean, there's artifacts. If you want to get into like historical stuff, I know it. I know it exists. I can't tell you exactly to what.
Yeah, I'm sure they got something. I'm sure they got something, but no, because
All
I
they
don't
can
want to
say
do
it
because like I
exists.
said, I
You
don't.
know.
Yeah, it. But it's also getting further along in the process. You know what I'm saying? And we found things that existed long before then
Mhm.
that have been intact long before that time. And people, as a people, for a long time have been collectors. Like being a collector and a hobbyist that ain't new. You know what I'm saying? So people have been burying their folks with trinkets and all types of stuff. So it just gets real convenient that a lot of the stuff then just becomes so impossible to find, so hard to find, so scarce. You know what I'm saying? That you can only find a piece of the. Now I get it. The art probably something like the art like that would probably have been disintegrated over thousands of years, right? So it would be
Mhm.
there. I would say that you're 100% right. It would be unreasonable for somebody to find the whole thing. You know what I'm
Have you heard
saying?
of
It's mm,
Have you heard of the Library of Alexandria?
you know I ain't heard of no Library of Alexandria.
Okay. I'm just, I mean, but I don't know what you've heard because you've heard a lot of things, and you know, what I'm saying you be in different things. But the
No,
Library of
no, I'm just.
Alexandria is
Mhm.
one of the most famous centers, houses of information
Right.
in antiquity. Um, it was the pictures and things that people have drawn of it. It was one of the most like elaborate and amazing centers of knowledge that existed. Probably even to this day, like our libraries don't compare to that library as far as its grandeur and opulence. This was again also around 2,000 years ago. There are no known surviving artifacts from the Library of Alexandria, but it is well accepted that this thing existed. So it's another one of those things. Certain things do survive antiquity, others do not, due to natural disaster, due to being pillaged, and due to being spread out and lost to time. Like
Hmm.
I get what you're saying, but there are some things that were. I mean, I can't think of too many things in the Bible that would have been as hard to hide as the Library of Alexandria. The ark was something a few people could carry. Most of the things were small. The cross, a couple of Romans could put up. 2 to 4 Romans could probably put up a cross. So it's like most of the things were much more smaller than pretty much a tower, an entire tower full of knowledge and artifacts and scrolls and books completely lost. Don't even have like ruins. We've got nothing. So like that, and it was stationary, so we knew exactly where it was. So unlike like the things in the Bible that moved around, the people moved around, this was here, this was there. This was a stationary thing. Everybody knows where it was. We don't have anything. So like it's possible to have all these little smaller artifacts be lost to time. But you're right. The things we do have, some things are older, but what percentage of the things that were like it's probably like for a lot of the stuff, there's a reason for us having access to it. Like there's a reason why we have it. Like as far as how many dinosaurs populated the earth, how many surviving sets of bones are there? You know what I'm saying? Like it's probably a really infinitesimal percentage. It's like we probably lose way more than we think we do because
Right.
because people are collectors. Because people are collectors, we feel like we have a better grasp on what was than we actually did.
No, yeah, that's true. That's true. The only thing to the library I would say is, damn, it wasn't like a divot in the ground. It wasn't like
Over time,
a
over time,
space, but see, it was there. But
it was there. And of course, over time, people built over whatever ground was there, or maybe waters came in and overtook the place. Like it, I don't
Yeah,
know
you got to
exactly
think
what.
that the building materials up until a certain point where steel came into play were very
Mm-hmm.
natural. So
I'm
very
with
easy
you.
to erode and
I'm,
break
I,
down.
yeah, I'm with you.
And it
I'm
says
with you.
they've had many excavations, but still have not found any definitive remains.
I feel you. I
And it's a
can
busy city.
understand that.
It's a
I
busy
can
city, so there's a
understand
lot
that.
of people there too.
I can understand that.
Yeah,
It's just
I get you. I get you.
there's
Trust me.
things that's built there's things that was built thousands of years before that
And it's still there.
that's still standing. And
Yep.
to tell me that a building of such importance
Gone.
wasn't made out of the same
Yeah,
material that this random ass just pillar for the
yeah.
courthouse that was I mean,
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a geographical,
mm,
kind of thing as well. And then you got to think. You
Yeah.
think about people like the Egyptians; they were some of the best builders, like early.
Mm-hmm.
But they also it was inbred into their belief that these structures had to persist once they
Mm-hmm.
died. So I feel like
Yeah.
the Egyptians
Their culture
specifically,
believed in preservation.
yeah, they put
right.
a lot of energy in it because it was so woven into their belief system. But you
So
got
you
these other
mm,
people like Greeks and these other, that was not a part of their belief system. For
Yeah.
ancient civilizations, belief was like the main driver of everything. Every civilization did. So
Yeah.
it just wasn't held as in high regard as somebody like the Egyptians, where they believed their bodies would come back or they would like they need to be preserved in order to
Mm-hmm.
go into the next life.
Yep.
So I mean, it was just so woven into their belief system that you can't really, they ain't had nothing but time. So
Yeah.
they
And
they
then
spent
some
all of
people
it
live,
building the tomb.
and then some people were live closer to enemies who also had different cultures. So Europeans, a lot of them, there was a lot of there was a lot more barbaric groups when they got into their strife up, I'll say up north. But barbarians and there were some Mongols that just believed in desecrating and destroying whatever they came in contact with whenever they were invading or infiltrating. So like some people, I think there's a place in Middle East. I can't remember during the Israel, not Israeli, the Afghan and Iraq conflicts. Somebody
mhm.
was doing that. Somebody was going in and intentionally going into places of history and destroying stuff. And I can't remember
Oh
what
yeah,
group it
they call them
was.
like they have like the grave robbers. They have like the
Yeah.
pillagers. They
Yeah,
they purposely go and
Hmm.
destroy. I think they destroyed some from Babylon. Like
yeah,
they found it and then they went and destroyed it just because they're like this is sacrilegious and
yeah,
they be making sure that shit is gone.
yeah. So
Hmm.
that's why so much stuff doesn't survive because that's even accounted for in the Bible. The Bible had like the story of Nehemiah I brought up one time because the temple had been destroyed multiple times. They were trying to rebuild it. Dude got permission because again they had been occupied. They got taken over by a group of people. Nehemiah asked. He worked up his way into I'll say Massa. I'm going to say Massa so it's relatable. Worked up in Massa's house, got permission and money and help from Massa to go rebuild this place where the black people were living. I'm just calling them the black people just so it's relatable. So they go back to the temple. They want to rebuild the church. Nehemiah goes back with help with resources, and they have to have half the people rebuild. The other half have to stay there and defend because there were still people trying to burn down the church. They went back to the south. They're trying to rebuild the church, and they still had to build at the same time as defend because people were always trying to tear it down because they were just in a hostile territory. They were occupied by one group, but there were
Hmm.
also other people that hated them. So like that's a part of history too, and that's again accounted for in the Bible.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I see. I understand the historical people like Genghis Khan and them used to just come fuck up people's shit for no
Yeah.
reason.
Oh yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? They were so ignorant. They was trying to destroy the Great Wall of China. Like, nigga, do you see this wall?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
ain't gonna happen, blood.
It's
But
kind of sturdy, bro. It's kind of sturdy.
that's my type of carrying on though.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Oh look, it's a woo long wall. A wall long. It's a wall long. I'm gonna spend the next
Wall on.
13 hours straight. I'm gonna spend the next 13 hours straight
Now,
trying to get through this one part of the wall.
look, I'm just saying, I need that type of effort though. You know what I'm saying? I prove if you talking about proof, I proved to myself that I couldn't do it. I just wasn't built for that shit. But I did it though. I did do it.
Yeah.
I did do it. So man, that was a lot. That hurt. That
Neo.
that hurt. My bad.
Yeah, that was a lot. Now you good. Neo Music, appreciate you. We are finishing up a conversation from earlier before we get to that, but I'm more inclined to agree
Yeah.
with you. While you're here, while you're popping in, I just want to say I do agree with you. I think there's problems with it, but we actually haven't gotten to that topic. But I did want to acknowledge you and say, I agree with you.
Yep.
But we're going to discuss that in a little bit. But
Maybe.
Yella, your second part, while we're having this sidebar conversation, you said looking for evidence in a faith-based practice. You didn't like that. I said that was kind of
Oxymoronic.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go back to that oxymoronical, oxymoronic, because it's a faith-based. It's a belief-based practice where it's written that you have to choose to believe something absent the evidence of it. So, like that's the rule. You have to believe
Right.
something that you're not going to have evidence for. So that's why I say looking for evidence is problematic. It doesn't make complete sense. I understand the feeling of wanting evidence, but expecting it and thinking you're going to find it, like that's where it gets a little. But like, so
Or
let's talk about that point.
or that
Go ahead.
people who have chosen to believe would be discouraged from belief because of lack of faith. I think that's also
Right.
probably not. Like, I know for myself, I don't believe. I had experiences myself along with what I was choosing to believe. You know what I mean? Like, so it wasn't just what somebody told me. My belief also wasn't based on going to a church. Once again, most of my experience and journey has been outside of church structure or religion. So I can't really speak to how most people come to be Christian or accept Jesus. Mine was completely absent of that thing you're saying you hate. So, like, saying that there's not evidence, like, that doesn't bother me because I know that. Like, I know for myself that I had to have my own experiences to go along with what I was choosing to believe in order for me to feel solid in it. And I had that. So for me, my belief is not just because of, oh, I'm choosing to believe this story in a book. It's like I am choosing to believe in this, in Jesus, and then I'm also having experiences in my own life now that are a testimony to what seems to be on brand with what I'm also reading here.
No, and I get that. Like, that is kind of part of the rules, and it's kind of the idea of the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes, I guess, it becomes a thing to me because, and this was only a thought through the Discord conversation because I think you said something like that yesterday on stream, but it got reiterated in Discord. Um, then there can't be proof. Then you can't offer me proof either of said thing being true, right? So
I agree. I don't think you can convince somebody who wants proof of it.
right, but that's what happens though.
Yeah, some people try to make you believe, and some people try to use the Bible to prove the Bible to people who don't believe in the Bible, which I think is stupid. But
Yeah.
Right. So
it
if I'm
happens all the time.
mhm. So if I'm asking So if I'm asking why do you feel like this is real, or why is this real, and you proceed to tell me proof or give me things that you feel are situations or circumstances for you that equal proof, then I
You
don't think
witnessed
it's
by your
so
testimony.
yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
it's so oxymoronic for me to ask for proof of your proof.
Well, that it is in a sense of oxymoron is just like you're asking for evidence, physical evidence of the supernatural, and that's just literally not possible because of what supernatural is and what evidence would be considered substantial
Right.
evidence. Like, and so even in the gospel, even when Jesus talked about preaching the gospel, you give the word of your testimony, and that is what creates the believer. It was never supposed to be sit and tell people, because that's what the Jews were doing when he was there. They were already doing that. They were just beating people over the head with what this book said. And that is how they were getting people to become Jews from shame. The same thing the church is doing. He came in and saying, you're gonna walk with me. I'm gonna change. Your life is gonna change, and your testimony will be the thing that converts people. It's always supposed to be your testimony. So I can sit here and give you a testimony of my whole journey about how I went from where I was to how I became to decide I want to follow Jesus. But what evidence do you want me to give besides I'm standing here telling you my life has changed? I mean, I could also maybe have Lois say, yeah, she used to be like this, and all of a sudden she was different, right? But with time, that also would be lost, and it still would turn into a book of stories, a group of stories about the life of me and how Jesus changed. And that's still gonna end up being the same thing, which is a word of mouth story about how I experience God and how people experience me experiencing God, right? So you see what I'm saying? Like, even now, me as somebody who has a testimony and has these experiences, have had them, what evidence would you want me to give you?
And real
Like,
quick, let
I'm
me
here
Ruth,
now.
real quick. Ruthless Truth, appreciate you. And we're having a sidebar conversation, something that we started earlier. We're not going to be to the topic of the stream for probably about another 20 to 30 minutes. So just wanted to say, man, appreciate you for coming through. And we'll get to the topic probably about 20 or 30 minutes if you want to pop back through. If not, appreciate you for stopping through this time. Go ahead, Brie, my bad.
No, I was just saying, like, what evidence would you ask for somebody who was giving you their testimony? That's what I'm just curious to know. Like, since there's not the issue of historical loss of artifacts and stuff, like, what would you want me to show? Like, what would that proof be for you?
Okay. So from what you just told me, from your testimony, I would need I would need proof that it wasn't your choice to do different actions as opposed to an outside influence directing your choices. Cause that more or less sounds like, oh well, yeah, she used to be this way, but then, she just started acting like that. That means that there was some intervention in your actions instead of just a changed thought process. Now, I can give you the benefit of the doubt that your belief structure changed your thought process. But it's also being sold to me like this entity changed and intervened in your life process. Like this being or this entity or this deity
Right.
now
Is the
interjects
reason
into your
behind it.
right.
Right.
Now he's
But
he's
how
the
can I
he's the ones
prove that
making
to
this
you
shit.
though?
Right. I mean, I understand that in the long run, in the actual scope of things, there's no proof that anybody can provide anybody.
Oh, okay. Well,
I've given
that's what I was
certain
like.
examples.
That's what I was.
We've come across certain examples where I said, but if you're wanting to know what proof you would be able to give me, that would be it. That's my point. And I understand
That's
the
too far.
absurdity on my part, but for some reason people don't grasp the absurdity on the other end to tell me that it's also true. Right. And that's where the disconnect for me comes in, because I'm
What
not
is true,
supposed
like the
to.
Bible or their own
No,
experiences?
no, like no, the idea that your behavior changed due to a spiritual intervention.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
A
because that's just gonna come down to you choosing to believe my testimony or not.
right now, I could believe that you made different decisions in your life
And you
based
just
on
want that
what
to be
you.
considered with the same weight. Is that what you're
Of
saying?
course.
I didn't understand your argument
Right,
just then.
right, right,
Okay.
right,
I mean, of
right,
course, I consider that, but once again, it's my testimony. I've lived it out. So if I came to that conclusion, then once again, I could tell you my whole testimony, and you could say, well, psychologically, it was this or it was that. I mean,
Yeah.
there is going to be
Chemical
nothing I could
imbalance.
tell you. Right? There's gonna always be a way to refute anything I say. Really, you could always just choose to believe differently than what I say.
no, and I mean, right, but you asked me what would be the thing that would give me the proof. And unfortunately for everybody involved, it's going to be because what's being presented to me to ask for proof from is fantastical. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not so much unfair on my end to ask for proof to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just to me. It's not unfair on my end for me to ask for
Yeah, I
proof
mean,
when
asking
I'm
for proof
being presented. Right.
is
When I'm
fine. It's
being
just what you
presented with.
consider as proof of it is an impossible proof. Like,
Right.
but I
Right.
feel like there could be other proofs. Like I said, if people who know me my whole life are saying one day you were this way, you did this thing, and you completely changed in an alarming rate
Right.
to the point where I was like, "What happened to you?" And I said, "This is what happened to me. This is what I did,
Hmm.
and this is this. It just changed for me. It turned around for me." Faster than maybe I even knew what was wrong with me, or maybe even faster. I didn't even know what I needed, but I changed. I was changed. And
Right.
someone who knows me closely says, yes, I also witnessed this change. You could consider that proof. But if you choose not to consider that proof, then once again, we go back to you want it to be proof that you feel like it's sufficient. And that's what I'm saying is almost impossible because I'm listening to you saying what you would need to have as proof. And I don't think that exists for anybody who's going to have a testimony of experiencing the supernatural and that being a big part of how they change. I just don't think anybody will be able to give you sufficient proof unless you were
Yeah.
like with them as they were going through it, maybe. Because that's kind of like what happened to my brother. Like he was into Santeria at the time, and he was witnessing me going through it in real time, and he was convinced by witnessing me going through it in real time, even if I wasn't saying it to him. So that also convinced, that kind of like, he was like, oh, it's something here. And it made him curious. So I feel like for you, it would have to be something like that. Like it would have to be somebody that you can witness over a span of time closely changing before your eyes. And then you'd be like, oh, if they said that was it, then maybe you'd be more convinced, you know.
I mean, here's where I will be convinced. Here's what I will be convinced of. I will be convinced that you have been inspired and motivated by what you've read in the Bible and what you've learned in your quote relationship with Jesus or relationship with God. I can accept that you have decided to make better choices based on certain lessons and principles that you've taken in, right? What I can accept is that it's going to be presented to me as if there was a spiritual intervention, that there was a second party involved in what was going on. I can 100% ride with the fact that you might have changed. I can experience a person changing their life and just see them make better decisions. But
Mhm.
I can't grasp that as there's somebody
A
holding that
deity.
person's hand. Right. There's a deity holding this person's
Right.
hand, navigating their every move. Because if that is the case, then I need then we go back to um
Right.
the not intervening in the evil part.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, that's what I'm saying. There were never, the supernatural element is the part that you will never have proof for. The supernatural element in the story is God, the outside entity that I experienced that changed me.
Yeah,
There,
it's
that's what
a
I'm talking about when I say there won't be proof. I'm not anything you can observe. I know you would not have a hard time believing in that. So once
it's a
again,
sign.
it's the supernatural element that you would always struggle with, and there would never be any evidence I could give you of that.
Yeah, it's a scientific equation. Like Neil Tyson talk about that shit. He say it's what is it? X equal God. X equals
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. The
You know what
unknown
I'm
God of the
saying?
gaps.
So right, God of the gap. So like if the equation don't add up, you just insert God. And wow, okay, it's an
Yeah.
option.
I mean, it could be one thing if I was just going along and like changed, and then I said, I don't know why I changed. Let me just say it was God. I mean,
Yeah,
that'd be one thing you could say. Well, you just inserted God in there because you didn't know what happened to you. I could see that if that was what I was saying. I could see you saying, well, you're just deciding that God was a thing, even though you mindlessly did not do anything. You just changed over time with age, and now you're saying it was God. I could see you having an issue with it in that way, if that is what I was saying.
Right. And I understand what you're saying. That I do. But still the understanding of it is that Jesus changed your life, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I
So
know that because of
are
what
we
I actually
talking
did. Yeah, because it
right?
wasn't just like,
Are
yeah.
we talking a intervention in your life? Like
No, I don't
this
think he just came in when I didn't ask for it and just when your life is so bad, I'm just gonna come in here and move some shit around. No, that is not what happened to me.
I don't need okay. I
That would
mean
be an
intervening.
intervention
I
to
mean
me. The
when I
intervening
mean
would be like I don't
yeah.
have to ask for help or I don't have to do anything. He just is like you're going down a bad path. Let me
But I
step
mean
in.
even you asking for help though.
Not just help.
Right. But so he did something, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would
That's
say
what I'm
so.
saying. Right. That's what I'm saying. There's a thin line between you for me. There's a line
Right,
between you being actually Jesus being a part of what you're dealing with and you
right.
being inspired by the story and the legacy and the
Yeah.
understanding of Jesus, right? So that's where asking me to give you proof is almost unfair to me.
No, I'm just saying, like, yeah, I can't give you proof of that. But what I all I can say is I grew up my whole life knowing Bible stories. So for me, that
Right.
changes the variable. This wasn't a I grew up atheist and never read the Bible, and I read the Bible and my life changed. That's also not my story. So that changes the variable of the Bible didn't inspire me enough to change. Because if it was gonna do that, it would have done that many times over.
But Jesus
see,
still helped you though, right?
Helped. That's what I was like. I mean, I asked
I mean,
for
I
him
don't
to
know
come
the
into my
that's the
life and
thing.
I
I
accepted
don't
him as
know
my
how
Lord and
to
Savior.
right. I
That's
don't
what
know
it
how
yeah.
is.
What
to
word
I
would you
don't know the
use
right
though?
word. Yeah, I don't know the right word to use because I've used intervene, I use help. You know what I'm saying? And at this point the goalpost is just like
No, it's
don't
just
touch me,
because,
that's
like,
my
okay,
no
like,
square.
let's, for instance, like a lot of people when shit gets real, they may say, oh my God, help me out of desperation. Like, I don't even pray, I don't do nothing. I'm just gonna ask God to help me right now, right? Like, some people do that. And then, like, some people believe that if something bad is happening to you, God will swoop in and save you. Like, some people believe that. So, like, for
Yeah.
me, I grew up also knowing the Bible my whole life. I wouldn't say the stories were inspirational to me pre me being saved.
Mhm.
I asked
Mm,
for him to come into my
mhm.
life and I accepted him as my Lord and Savior, as the Bible would say you are supposed to do. And then I got baptized, as you are supposed to do, in water. And then I mean, not instantly, but in that moment, from that moment, I can pinpoint the moment in which my life changed from a 180. I can pinpoint the moment, and it is that moment. So while some may not accept it, I accept it. That is the reality. That's how I experienced it. So it wasn't just reading the Bible. It wasn't just in a moment of desperation calling out for help, because I had been in a depressed, terrible state years before that, and
Mm-hmm.
asked for help, and didn't shit change. Okay, so no, I don't think it's just a asking for help or your life gets so bad he just came in and saved you. I don't believe that. So that's kind of why those words don't really fit what I feel like was my experience.
Okay. So we kind of we getting somewhere. We getting somewhere. I think we laid down a brick. We got about 5 minutes. I want to get to. I think we laid down a brick now, because if I'm not mistaken, you're saying that you know that the point in your life when your life changes when you got baptized, right?
From there on, that's the 180 in my life. That even the people
Okay.
who knew me my whole life could see the 180.
Okay. So this ain't to, like I said, this ain't to
No, you
diminish that, right?
can.
So it was at the point that you decided to make a commitment to better choices, because that's kind of like it. You was baptized by a human in a water that, you know what I'm saying, like a lot of the things you did you chose to do, like you had to go
It
do,
was the
right?
ritual,
Right.
if you want to say.
So right now yeah, it's ritual, yeah, you know what I'm saying, but these are steps that you decided to take, right? So within that ritual, you're making a commitment to make better choices because
Nah, I mean, you could say I'm making a commitment to make better choices, but I feel like that's conflating it a little bit, because to understand where my life was, I did not necessarily even know. It wasn't like this is bad. I didn't go to him like, I had been going to therapy for years and all kind of stuff. I didn't really become a Christian to save me from anything, right? So at the point, hold on one second. At, I'm gonna go inside. Give me one.
Yeah, so real quick, man, Ruthless definitely. I was planning on having an open panel today. I will drop the link. I just want to get them, allow them to work through this point because it's something we were working on earlier. Once we get through, at least get to a point of understanding of where each other's coming from, then open it up and you can add your perspective or your testimony, whatever you have for us. Appreciate you.
Okay, I'm back. Um, I didn't arrive here to fix something because I had already done some of the, I had gotten out of the situation. So things were kind of leveled out. I was safe, I was good, like everything had leveled out at this point. And once again, I didn't go to a church, so it wasn't like a shame thing. It wasn't,
mhm.
it was literally just me. I'm curious. So I've read all kind of spiritual texts. I've dabbled. I told you I've been a dabbler. So it was kind of just me being like curious about it. It wasn't really even me feeling like it had the answers. When I read the Bible, I grew up listening to the Bible. I read the Bible like Lord of the Rings. Like I wasn't even reading the Bible on no. I
Yeah,
was reading it like it was Lord of the Rings.
yeah.
And so it wasn't this big, oh, I'm gonna have faith in this God come into my life. It wasn't that for me. It was just I was at the house reading it like it was the Hobbit or some shit. And then I was like, oh, this is interesting. And it was just a lot of things lined up and I was experiencing things. And then I ultimately decided, like, oh, I'm gonna take a leap of faith. I'm gonna give this a try. From that moment, my life changed. And I would say I didn't make a choice to make better decisions because I didn't necessarily feel like I was making terrible decisions. I didn't necessarily feel like I was just completely a hot ass mess at the time. Like, so I wouldn't say I had a mental like this is the moment I'm gonna change my life. The only thing I knew in that moment was I was accepting Jesus as my Lord and Savior. That's the only thing. I didn't
Okay.
even think I would change to the extent in which I changed.
Okay. So it's at the point to where we're now I would have to ask, what does change mean to you? Because would you say you changed for the better or you just changed for the different?
She was fighting for her life.
The youngins getting oh shit.
She changed
No,
again. Look.
because it's changed again, right? Changed into digital dust.
Oh shit.
You know what I'm saying? But not to keep going while she because I want to get through it. But okay,
Yeah.
we back.
Yeah,
She
phone
working
call
on it.
knocked
She
out
working on it.
my sound, so I had to leave and come back. Go ahead.
All right. So I was asking because you keep saying that it changed, right? So did it change? Like what's your idea of change, and like how would you say it changed? Like did it change for the better, or did it just change for the?
Oh, absolutely for the better. Am I
Watching
gone?
y'all drop is hilarious. Nah, yellow drop. Then he's back.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm
Oh,
good.
okay.
I'm good.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say it changed for the better. I've said that. I said my life since that point, that decision has been for the better, net positive. It doesn't mean I haven't gone through
Mhm.
shit didn't go right, but
Right,
net
right, right, right.
positive. Like, yeah, it
Okay,
changed. Like,
okay. So when I'm saying that you came and you was asking for help, that don't necessarily you had to be at rock bottom. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, my life is fucked up. But you definitely went looking for help to improve something.
I I would say I'm just a dabbler. Like that's why I was saying that's my nature. Cause like I've just tried shit on for fun. Like that's what I mean. Like I'm not one of those people. Like I dabbled. I'm a dabbler. That's why I always
So this just so
status
happened
that
to
this
work
was
then.
just a side mission. Like
So this is just a side mission. Okay, all right, I could understand that then.
it was a side
So
mission, and I started experiencing things that were on brand with what I was reading, and were having an effect on me, and all this stuff. Like I was not thinking this was going to happen to me when it happened. That's what I'm saying. Like I didn't really come to that place from a like I need an answer to life. Like this was just me hopping around dabbling and shit again,
okay,
and it was life
so
changing.
right, and it's just
That's fair.
And the things about me that changed weren't things that before that I would have even thought needed to change.
but you thought it needed to be changed, right?
No, I didn't. That's what I'm saying. The things that changed about
So
me weren't even
okay,
things that I felt a way
so
about.
how did they change? How did that end up being something that you changed? If it's something that you never even thought of changing, but then if I ask you, I said, okay, well, something about it must have made it register in your brain. This is ultimately what I'm saying. I'm not saying the process. I get that. What I'm saying is that I'm also being told that this is being done because something is helping you change your life for the better.
That's the
And
only explanation I got.
right. And for me, it's just you making it a commitment to make better choices. That don't necessarily mean that some deity intervened in your life or it's like holding
Yeah,
your
if it was
hand
just me
and
making a
walking
choice and
with
then
you.
I made the choice I wanted to make. Like I said, I had been going through therapy. I dabble in Wicca, Santeria. Like I've been fucking around with all kind of stuff. I know what it feels like to make a decision and follow through a decision. That's what I'm saying. Like I know what that feels like. I've decided a lot of things and accomplished the thing I set out to do. I know what that feels like. I know what that feels like. So I know that that wasn't what was happening to me because I've done that multiple times over in my life. Even since then, I've made a decision, made it happen. I know what that feels like. This did not feel that way, which is why it was even more like, what is going on? Because
So this happened outside of your control then.
this happened outside of, I wouldn't say I have free will. I wouldn't say anything happened to me that I didn't welcome because I welcome the deity, let's just say. I welcome that in. I welcome that energy in that. I welcome that in. So I made that choice. Now, what happened after that? I see that. What happened after that? I would say it didn't feel like I was possessed or like I couldn't not do this thing, but it definitely felt, it's hard to explain. It felt like something outside of me. It didn't feel like my own thoughts. It felt like kind of like being crazy, low key. I'm not gonna hold you. Like it feels so not like me that like I don't know how else to explain it. Did not feel like me. I
Okay,
don't know how
so
else to
now
explain
you
it.
so now we get into what I'm saying. Now you're telling me that your thoughts and ideas weren't of your own.
I know it sounds crazy. I mean, I had my own. I have my
Right.
own thoughts. I'm not possessed. I'm not in the sunken place. Like I have
But
my
Bree,
own
that's what you
thoughts.
just
I'm
said
going.
though.
No,
That's
no.
kind
I'm
of what you
explaining.
just
That's why I
said
said. I'm.
though.
That's why I said I don't want to say possessed because that gives
Yeah,
a
let her
thing
restate.
of you are out of it. You have no control over what's happening. I very much so had control of myself. It felt more like an intrusive thought or like just like it's so not like me. I know you've had thoughts that are your own voice. I even know what my own negative voice feels like. This is a person who has gone I've gone to therapy. I know what my negative voice feels like. I'm very familiar with it. I know what my intrusive thoughts sound like. I am very in touch with my inner self and monologue at all
So
times.
what does Jesus' voice sound like?
How am I explaining it to you? To me,
No, no, because it can't. It that's
like
that's what I'm
let's for
saying.
instance,
Like it's of course it's
like it
gonna
would
be
be
to
you want to
you or
know
somebody
what it
else. But
feels like.
yeah, like no, I
You want to
no,
know
I
what
don't
it
want to
feel
know
like
what
to
it
me.
feels like. No, no, no.
Okay, well,
I
how I
asked you,
experienced. You want to know how
what
I
does
experienced it.
Jesus' voice sounds like? Because
To
apparently he's
me,
got to be telling you what he's got. He's telling you what he won't done. Apparently, like that's what I'm saying.
that's
This,
why
I'm,
this is the
I'm
part
with
where
you.
like
I'm with you. But
how I
it's going to
experienced
completely
it,
break down. No, it's
how
going
I
right. How
experienced it,
and that's where the complete breakdown comes in
and that's where
because
you
you're
just have to
telling
choose to
me
believe or not. And that's
it's
why I said
but
there's gonna be nothing
but what
I
am I
with you.
supposed to believe if you're telling me two
You
different
could believe
things?
I was crazy. I don't know. This is the part where I was already telling you. This is the part where if I was to tell you that, you still have to choose to just believe me because it's a
I
subjective
mean, I'm
evidence.
right. I have no
I
choice
can,
but to believe you.
but you don't have to. You could choose not to. You could choose to just say you was crazy. You was having auditory hallucinations. You could decide anything based off what I would tell you, right? So you don't have to believe what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This is subjective evidence. This
Right.
is evidence
But
you
if
can
I
only get from my mouth,
it's
from my wisdom, from me.
there's a difference between telling me that I don't have to believe it and then giving me evidence to believe it.
No,
Like
I'm.
it's a
Look.
lot
This is
of
the thing.
right.
Like in nursing, let's take it out of this. My patient can come to me and say my pain is 10 out of 10. That's subjective. I can never feel their pain. They could be calm as hell when they say it. I could choose not to believe them because I don't feel like it's convincing. I'm like, you're saying you're a 10 and you're sitting here with a straight face. There is nothing they could ever do to convince me that they're in pain if they're saying it's 10 out of 10. I just either have to believe them or I don't. So that's what I'm saying to you. This is in the realm of subjectivity. So I can tell you how I experienced God when I welcomed him into my life, but ultimately you can just say, I don't believe it.
All right, so real quick, let me interject. So, Bree, can you tell us how you experience the voice of Jesus, or relay it how you need to relay it, so you can, and then Yellow can take it how he takes it. But I want to hear you
Yeah. I
express
wouldn't
that.
say it was like a voice because, like, some people say God talked to me. I wouldn't necessarily say it was like I'm listening to y'all, but it was more just like it was I would say it's like a prompting almost. I don't really know how to explain it. The only other time I've had it outside of a spiritual thing I could say was that time I almost died, and like I just heard a voice say, like, it was almost like it wasn't an auditory voice, but it was, I don't know, something that was like, if you go to sleep right now in this bed, you will not wake up. You will die. Like I heard that as a prompt. I don't even know how to explain it. And so I went to the hospital, and sure enough, I would have died. So, I mean, that's the only time I've experienced it outside of what I would say was a spiritual kind of prompting, right? Um, but that's a really hard thing to explain to somebody, right? Like it's really hard to explain. It's not only like it's not an auditory thing, like it's not like Rashawn is in my head, but it's a very strong prompt. It's more
I'm
than
in
just hearing
everybody's
it.
head.
You kind of
Everybody's head.
feel it too. Like you kind of feel it in your gut too. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen often. I'm not, you nasty.
That's true
I'm
too.
not like
All of that's true.
Labria. I would say, in my experience, I've been saved for 10 years. I'm not hearing that all the time. I'm not getting these strong prompts all the time. I'm not constantly sitting around hearing God say this and God say that. That is not my experience of it. But very much so, when I first got saved, I feel like I definitely experienced it more, and maybe just because it was a new thing for me. But sometimes it would just be prompts like, I don't know, like I really didn't give a fuck about people. Like I was pretty terrible. So like, I mean, I just usually live my life not paying attention to others. And sometimes it would be something like I one time I was like driving down the street and I just felt this big strong prompt to stop. Like you need to pull over here right now. And I was a nurse at this time. And I kind of pulled over and it's like in the hood. So like usually I would never pull over there because it's like it'd be a bunch of niggas over there. But I pulled over because it was like a strong prompt. And I kind of just sat there for a second, like kind of like why am I doing this? This is stupid. Like this is crazy. Why am I doing this? And then I kind of looked around and there just happened to be a man outside with like an oxygen tank, and apparently he had like COPD and it was like really hot that day. And he was like trying to get into the clinic, but he got there a little early, but it was like 100 degrees that day. And he was like not doing very well because he wasn't supposed to be in the heat. So then I was able to like help him. I kind of like let him sit in my car in the AC, which I would never do because this was a grown ass man. So I let him sit in my car, let him get some air, and then like waited until the clinic opened, and then I like helped him go in. And you may say like that's not a big deal, but that was so not like me. Like I'm a woman. Like I usually would never stop in the hood. I would never let a man get in my car. I never would give a fuck about a man with an oxygen tank. Like it just felt so not like me, but the prompt was very strong. Like I was just minding my own business, just making my way downtown, like, and I just felt this prompt, like you stop here. And it just kind of seemed like it was pointing me to be more compassionate or like care about the people around me more. It is the best way to kind of explain ultimately what it felt like. Like it was making me care about people more, which was something I just didn't do before. I mean, that's just one situation, but I had a lot of situations like that. Like for that first couple years, it was really like a lot of that. Like, I don't know. And other things were happening to me as well, like personally, or me knowing things about the people close to me that I should not have known. Just all kind of weird shit. I got stories for days, but I'm like, I mean, I I don't know, but it's just like stuff like that. It was just happening to me all the time. From that point forward, that stuff was happening to me constantly. And it's just not something I had experienced before, even when I was dabbling, you know, it just wasn't something I had experienced before to that capacity.
All right, you with us, Yella?
Yeah.
Cool. You get what you needed from that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Cool.
don't know. So, you know.
All right. Well, listen, I'm gonna drop the link. I know. I don't know if they are still there. We're gonna get ready to shift into the main topic. I know Ruthless Truth said they wanted to share on where we're at currently about the evidence of faith. So we'll let that be the segue. Ruthless Truth, if you're still here, I'm gonna drop the link, and because I was gonna be open panel for the second topic, and we can start with your whatever you wanted to share. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, it's yeah, I know we can start getting the people up because I know we definitely said a half hour. This ended up being an hour and
You can always
15 minutes. Y'all
grill me
know
about my supernatural experiences if
we
it's
don't
more.
have
Like
no
I can share
sense of time. Right.
all 10 years of
And
them in
like and
succession.
right and in all respects, I would take it for what you say it is.
Yeah.
Because what I don't do is question individual
What I
faith.
don't do.
I don't question individual faith. Like if you feel that way. I encourage you to feel that way. My my disposition on it using your example still just feels like instinct to make better decisions, consciously being more compassionate, right? It's still a hard sell to kind of present it as the text message of Jesus, because you said it's like a prompt. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I just consider it like you get a text on your phone. You know what I'm saying? You pull over. Oh, okay, I guess I'll pull over. Yeah, okay. You know, it's a text from JC. You know what I'm saying? I have it, whatever name you got him saved under. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so, but
yeah.
I couldn't question that, because that is your individual experience. So, like, I guess that's where my steam runs out, because once it gets down to individual experience and stuff like that, now I think it's something where I can't, because now it's about how you look at it, and I can't tell you specifically how to, because even believers between each other can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Dictate each other's experience of it. With that being said, it hasn't convinced me necessarily that
Oh, of course.
it ain't.
Yeah, I
No,
mean, yeah, obviously.
no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I
It
also don't feel like it's enough. Like that
Yeah,
wouldn't be a full testimony. Like I mean, I didn't give a full
yeah.
testimony. You know, I
right.
would be. I welcome giving my full testimony. I just don't want to do it right now. But like,
No,
I
right,
wouldn't think
right.
that would be enough to convince you at all. So yeah,
No,
that's
no,
fine.
because you just sound like you decided to be a very demure, very cute,
Yeah, but also having been
Mindful.
in relationships with
very
people, you know
mindful, right? You know what I'm
how hard
saying?
it is for people to actually be compassionate
Yeah,
even if they want to, or be empathetic even if they want to. So
yeah.
it's not as easy as wanting to do better, because we sit here and talk all day about how people in relationships
Mm-hmm.
refuse or won't change for people they love and
Right,
they
Yeah.
are with. So we know that
right,
even if I had decided I'm going to be more empathetic to people, that's not always how it works.
right.
So
And I'm willing to concede it being the catalyst. Like I can concede like the I gotta put it like I can concede the inspiration of whatever Jesus represents for you, whatever compelled you to even dabble in it. You know what I'm saying? It's just when you started telling me that this deity actually was there with you, or sending you to play in your ear, like you know what I'm saying, Caleb Williams. You know what I'm saying, calling down the play from the offensive coordinator's booth. I mean, you know, Drewski shrug at that point. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can do is, that's all I can do is Drewski shrug. And
Yeah.
hey, you know, but I respect it though, twin. We live y'all life, shit. Don't, you know. We probably ain't gonna end up in the same place anyway, y'all. I can tell you that right now.
Hey, never know. But hey, I wanted to welcome to the stage, but Ruthless Truth. Appreciate you for being in the chat and popping up. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Doing well, doing well. What brought you over? What you want to share with us, or
I like
question?
the topic. I like the topic. Can you be pro-choice and Christian? So I like it.
Got
That
you.
was to me that was a great topic. I've having nobody's ever discussed this on this platform before in that format. So I thought it'd be a good time to discuss it.
Okay. Just as we segue, so if that's what you're here for, great. That's a perfect time for us to switch over, and let's start with you, and let's get everybody, because I have some videos that we're going to kind of react to. Some people that had shared their opinion, and we'll like ask questions amongst each other. But let's start off like with you, Ruthless Truth. What do you feel about that? Where you stand as far as being pro-choice and Christian?
Yeah, I don't think you could be pro-choice and Christian,
Okay.
because either God's in control or he's not, right? So either God run the show or you run the show. Can't be in the middle. So that's a conflict of interest, in my opinion, to the Bible. If you look at the Bible versus God being the master of the universe, right? The the creation of all creation being the final authority and the only authority that truly exists, and then to come and say, "Oh well, I have authority too to take control of my life or my purpose," then that will contradict the scriptures.
Okay. Now, Yella, if you have an opinion on this, do you believe somebody can both be a Christian and pro-choice?
I would probably have to know, because if we talking about Bible Christian, then I would probably have to know like what the whole understanding of how that's viewed. But I would probably say it sounds like it would be a conflict of interest somewhere there. So I ain't gonna say that you can or can't, but I think that I think you would probably be getting pulled in two different directions, and that would suck.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Bree? What you think?
No, I don't think you can be like biblically. You should not be. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I do agree. I agree with that. It's a conflict. I do believe that the life. I do believe that the life there, the potential for life, it's a hard sell for me to believe that you could be pro choice. But I as a practical matter, I do believe in the exceptions. But as far as the ethic of it, because I heard people switch over from pro choice over the last 3 or 4 years to pro abortion, and like hearing that change of language definitely turned me off. I was like, oh no, that sounds terrible. But I want to bring in this topic. This was not a conversation necessarily about abortion. Right here that I'm getting ready to share. Um, this right here. This was actually a revolt reaction to the political debate. They were like live. Everybody dropped off. Reed dropped off. Ruthless Truth dropped off.
I had to change to.
Got you. So, but they talk about this lady here is a Christian, and she's going to have a disagreement with another Christian. But I wanted to bring this in. It's about 5 minutes of this. If anybody needs me to pause because they want to say something about something that was said, let me know. But I thought this was a good entry point. Yeah, wrong tab. There we go.
I just want to speak to the people in the Christian community as a Christian. I'm actually very disappointed in some of their point of views, including the rights. Tell people, I've heard a couple of conversations, people saying that a man can't tell me what I need to do with my body. But as a Christian, I just feel like, how can you agree with something or someone who says, when the Lord had already said, do not murder? So how can you agree with somebody who said, yeah, let's go ahead and abort, even when they have came out the womb? You know what I'm saying? And then the lady back there who said, Kara, was that your name? Who said, how can we agree with someone who said grab people by the... Well, as a Christian, I'm agreeing with Trump, and I don't identify with necessarily either party, but this year I am Team Trump because of his policies. Most of the ones, when I go by line, they agree with Jesus' principles that's laid out in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So I can't be mad at someone who half of his principles is aligned with the Bible. I can't disagree with someone who is against the LGBTQIADEI plus agendas with men, including men, playing in women's sports. I cannot agree with someone who's going to go ahead and take away our gun reform when in the Bible, Jesus is actually for us protecting ourselves. Somewhere in Luke, he definitely said, here's two swords. Okay. That is enough.
So let's let because she was talking to her in the pink, so she wanted to comment. Come on, sister, we're running out of time.
Okay. The first thing God called us to do is love.
Correct.
And I think a lot of our speech, yes, 100% has been inflammatory, but he's called us to love and not judge.
Correct.
Second thing God gave us is free will. It's not up to us to decide the cost of somebody's sins and how we're going to act out this person's punishment. So when you sit there and say that Trump's policies align with Jesus Christ, do you hear his speech? Do you hear his speech though?
To work on his heart.
But God says in the Bible, judge a man by his fruits. His fruits. Hold on. Please don't talk over me. his fruits are inflammatory. His fruits are rotten. So please don't disrespect my Jesus Christ like that. Okay, my family was and let me also go back just a little bit more. My family was very instrumental.
What?
And let me also say, my family was very instrumental. Is this mic on? Can people hear me?
I feel like
Okay.
go ahead. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
And I'm also saying this as a person whose family was instrumental in founding the AME Church. I don't know where your relationship with God went wrong, and I'll retract that because I can't judge where you're. But I think you need to go back to the Bible a little bit more and have some one-on-one time with Him to really think about whether the person that you're calling to represent this country actually.
I actually want to react to that because this panel went chaotic. Not even just this. The host went off the rails. Oh my gosh, she went so out of line, and I mean she was just so volatile. She
was bugging up. I seen some clips. I meant to. I'm glad you seen it. No, the one in the middle. She is terrible, terrible person. She is a terrible person.
Them two ladies was squared up like they was finna be boxing on Saturday, and this was like, you know how they come. They look like they got a match on Saturday. Yeah, I said, hold on, a battle, a rap battle or something. I said, okay, hold on.
She was bugging up.
This whole panel got like testy. It was super testy. Ruthless Truth is back in the building. Not sure if you were able to hear the two ladies exchange. Were you able to hear the two ladies exchange?
No, I had to fix my Wi-Fi. So I can hear
Give
you.
me a second. I'm gonna go back. Let me see. So I want you to hear the initial exchange so we can talk about it, and then we'll come back to 16.
In the Christian community, as a Christian, I'm actually very disappointed in some of their point of views, including the rights. Tell people, I've heard a couple of conversations, people saying that a man can't tell me what I need to do with my body. But as a Christian, I just feel like, how can you agree with something or someone who says, when the Lord had already said, do not murder? So how can you agree with somebody who said, yeah, let's go ahead and abort, even when they have came out the womb? You know what I'm saying? And then the lady back there who said, Kara, was that your name?
Then she just goes on to say a lot of Trump's policies mirror what she says in the Bible. But then here's the lady that contrasts her. Let me see.
Her in the pink, so she wanted to comment.
All right, Lonzo, appreciate you.
Come on, sister, we're running out of time.
Come through, curly ponytail. I seen you.
The first thing God called us to do is love. And I think a lot of our speech, yes, 100% has been inflammatory.
Yes,
but He's called us to love and not judge. Correct. Second thing God gave us is free will. It's not up to us to decide
that's not
the cost of somebody's sins and how we're going to act out
don't you judge
this
was
person's punishment. So when you sit there
I'll be the
and
judge
say
of that.
Trump's policies align with Jesus Christ, do you hear his speech? Do you hear his speech though?
To work on his heart.
But God says in the Bible, judge a man by his fruits. His fruits. Hold on. Please don't talk over me. His fruits are inflammatory. His fruits are rotten. So please don't disrespect my Jesus Christ like that. Okay, my family was and let me also go back just a little bit more. My family was very instrumental. And let me also say, my family was very instrumental. Is this mic on? Can people hear me?
Everybody hear you.
As a person whose family was
my taller be. I mean, my 6-year-old be doing it. She ain't taller no more.
Can
y'all hear me, girl?
Sorry. Church. I don't know where your relationship with God went wrong, and I'll retract that because I can't judge where you're. But I think you need to go back to the Bible a little bit more and have some one-on-one time with Him to really think about whether the person that you're calling to represent this country actually represents Jesus Christ, or whether he's actually thwarting Jesus' word.
You said that I'm disrespecting Jesus Christ. But what is disrespectful when He is the one who creates life? I think anybody who's a Christian can say He is the end all be all. He is the Alpha and Omega. He is the only one responsible for life. So what is disrespectful to the Lord Jesus Christ is Him giving you a baby and giving you life and you dropping it at His feet saying, I don't want it, because you don't want to control who you having sex with. If you do not want to have a baby with somebody that you don't want a baby with, you don't need to be having sex with that person. Maybe you need to close your legs. Maybe that's what you need to do, because you just don't want to be responsible with your body count. now. You want to use the I don't want a man telling me what to do with my body as an output and as an excuse, but that is not. You telling me I'm disrespectful and I need to revisit? Maybe you need to
From
revisit.
Cammed up to make faces. I can't stand
Would
it.
you relax?
I mean,
we wanted to
What you talking about? Will you relax?
Nobody we got we
conversation.
How is it irrelevant if we're talking about politics?
Why his friend so high?
Irrelevant, young lady. It's irrelevant because there's this
I'm not
such
gonna
thing
make the
called
comment I
separation
was thinking
between
about.
church and state. Your religious beliefs, if you will just let me
My
finish,
phobia be flaring.
your religious beliefs do not supersede
Don't say it.
my right as an American to not subscribe to that if I so choose. The government does not allow, the government is not inside my bedroom. The government shouldn't be inside your bedroom.
And side note, ever since she said something about LGBT, the woman in the audience, this one right here started looking more and more like Billy Porter. I already told you, most of the black men like the Roland Martins, the
Wasn't
Cardi
gonna say
sellouts, the ones trying to stop us from running away from the Democrat plantation, they're
1849.
either flaming hot like Billy Porter or low-key Andrew Gillum. It's a lot of questionable sassiness. And if it's not
I
that,
got another
beta
40
male
seconds on here, but I'm not sure
screaming
why
out
I got
loud.
it.
Pink book be
You should
going
probably just take your
hamburger.
religious beliefs and have them inside of your house of faith.
I can't.
So we're done. Hold on, we're moving on.
I just want to make one
No.
sentence to end it.
I
No,
can't
I'm not gonna
because
say
they're
anything
literally
rebuttal.
having me. We got to move on. We got to
Girl,
move on.
and you got to respect me. I don't know who you think you talking to, but I can get up in here
Swing
right
on
now
him.
because I was respecting her authority. If she has authority, there's no need for you to jump in when somebody else is speaking. You have been on 10 since we've been in here. You need to take your
Are those
emotions out of it
leggings?
because I am listening
Them
to everybody
leggings.
else's opinion. It's you who need to take your authority.
Oh, okay. I thought she had no pants
Okay,
on.
I guess I just wanted to keep the retrosity in there because I don't know why.
Yeah,
I
I'm
didn't need
glad
to
you
keep all that
kept
in there.
it. I'm glad.
Yeah.
You know we like carrying on around here.
Yeah, buddy. Yes, sir.
All right. So the argument was mostly the one lady is definitely trying to keep up that standard of like thou shalt not murder. You know, thou shalt not murder. Commandment. That was her stance. I'm not trying to litigate whether Trump has a lot of policies that align with Christian values, but if somebody wants to mention it, of course you can mention whatever you want. But my main argument for this, and I want people to speak to, is the one lady talked about thou shalt not murder. That's not aligned with Christ. That's what I'm standing on. And the other lady was like, God calls us to love and not judge. So that's kind of like the divide that I've heard a lot of. So I want to know what you guys think in the chat. Throw what y'all think. A lot of y'all saying it's like I want to read these chats too, and we'll start with you, Yell, in a second. What you think? But what you heard from the arguments and what you think. But Alonzo Hall said I'm pro-choice. I was damn near aborted. Okay. DJ Doe says I feel it ain't my business what a woman does with her body. This should be a discussion for women only. I guess I'm pro-choice. And then he's talking about the lady in the leggings. So his fruits are tainted. Talking about Trump. Yet this broad agrees with abortion, which is not love, and she's judging both her and Trump. Okay, that's a lady in the pink that agrees with abortion. Got you. Okay. Got you. All right, cool. Let me do the last one. The woman says she was disappointed in Christians. So what is he talking about? All right, cool. So let's start with you, Yellow. What do you think about that argument? Like, do you think? And again, I know everybody up here is not a Christian. I know. I grew up in the church. Yellow, you're not a Christian. You didn't grow up in church, not a Christian. Like, cool. But from your perspective, which is a completely valid perspective, what do you think about that argument? Like that call to love and not judge, as much as you can speak to it, and then like versus being pro-choice or anti-abortion on the one lady.
I don't know what to really take from it because, to be honest with you, all we heard was the opinions of a bunch of hateful ass people.
But what would you think? Like, okay, like
no, I'm saying
the
like
ethic is about love.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, a lot of the theories and principle work. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you believe that life is a blessing, you know what I'm saying? If that's what you believe, then yeah, you look at that, especially if, you know, it's just a lot of people that look at their kids like miracle babies. They was told they couldn't have kids and all that. So they look at their kids as like direct gifts from God. Yeah. So you can't really tell nobody that on that level, but you know, if murder, and you know what I'm saying. If unaliving beings is bad according to the rule book, then yeah, you kind of putting yourself in a corner. You know what I'm saying? But it was a lot of other stuff that was interesting about that. Cause old girls talking about some my Jesus. You ain't gonna disrespect my Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
I
But they
think
got
that's why.
different ones. They got different ones.
Right? Yeah, you know, he come in different models. I
Different
guess.
denominations, different Jesus.
Yeah, it's
All right.
it's like multiverse Wolverine.
Yeah. Definitely. What about you, Bree? What did you think between the arguments that were presented?
Um, this is hard for me because once again I grew up Jehovah's Witness, so even though I'm not, that still is a part of like how I see some things, and they always just be like, we stay out of politics because
Okay.
you don't really have nothing. Like, yes, we are citizens of the country, we are under the law, but like, and we you know, they're like, we're law abiding citizens, but you know, so for me, I would just never, I can't imagine being this worked up over it. Like, I have no intention of voting for either one of them.
Gotcha.
So then I don't have to like see which one aligns with my beliefs. And also that's like just kind of goofy to be like, I'm gonna vote for the human that aligns with my beliefs. And it's like, I don't know, because America's like kind of sick, like culturally Christian, but then it's moving away from that, and then it's like separation of church. It's just like, it just feels like a mess when you try to blend those two things together. So this wouldn't even be an issue for me. Like, I don't really care which one, because I don't intend to vote for either one of them. As far as myself, then if I got pregnant today, I would not get an abortion. I would not do that myself because I am a Christian. So I don't know how it gets so like, I don't know. It just feels like this is out of my scope of practice. Like, I don't really I never really, I don't know. I don't get Christians who kind of like, it feels like they reaching too far out of their realm of, I don't know, something. It just feels weird to be this worked up about policy and then trying to put your belief on it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up question, because you said you wouldn't do it because I'm a Christian. What to you? I know you said you're not. You align with the Christianity. You can't. It'll be hard to be Christian and pro-choice. You're like, those two don't really mix for you.
Yeah.
So when you said I wouldn't do it because I'm a Christian, what specifically about Christianity speaks to that's something that should not be done? What aspect of it? Like, what rule? What aspect? What ethic? What value? What moral code? What?
Not only the murder part. I mean, because some people say, well, it can't be murdered if it's not a human yet, it's still a fetus. But even just the idea of like, it's the gift, or you know, if I'm walking a path, if I'm following God, you know, I'll land where I'm supposed to be ultimately, even if I don't always agree with everything. That's generally how I live my life. There have been things that I would have never picked to happen or go the way they went, but ultimately, you know, when I look back over it, it all seems to line me up for net positive. That's why I always say net positive. I be salty sometimes, but so yeah, I ultimately would have that stance that like, okay, I got a whole IUD. Now if that don't work, well, seems like maybe I'm having a baby. That'll just be it. I would be miserable the whole time, but I do it. So like, for me, it's just kind of one of those, it's a blessing kind of thing. Like, I have faith that I'm on the path I'm supposed to be on. Like, I'm not out here doing crazy stuff that will veer me off the path. So I mean, if this is part of my walk, like, then I'm gonna walk it.
Walk it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Respect that. Respect that. Ruthless truth. What did you think about that whole, like, you're supposed to call to love and not judge versus like, no, abortion is not okay in any capacity?
And this is why the pro-choice argument is very, I would say, very that's what I'm looking for. It's very the pro-choice contradicts a lot of ways Christians think, right? So first and foremost, we're gonna lay out the foundation on she talking about love and not judge, right? But we also have to understand the scriptures does state that everything works together to God's glory. Right? So if all things work to good to God's glory, then we shouldn't even really be concerned whether the child is aborted or not, because at the end of the day, God will judge that person. It is that person, God. It is that person who stands or falls before God, right? And only God can make that call. So I do agree with the judgment part. Not should be judging, but at the same time, right? We as Christians understand that at the end of the day, victory belongs to God, judgment belongs to God, and He will execute the law in a way where everybody's going to understand what the law has been executed them for. Now, whether God have mercy on your soul and debits your account a free entry into heaven, that's at God's discretion. Or whether He holds you accountable and condemns you, that's at God's discretion. As for us in the Christian world, out here in Christians in this world, we understand that what's seen in the naked eye, what we see every day, all the things that's around us, right? The relationship we have with God lets us know that don't worry about that because God got this, right? God is the master of the universe. There's nothing happening that He isn't authorizing, right? I think Jesus said He has the keys to heaven and hell, right? And life and death.
Mm-hmm.
So God is the ultimate, and the church is coming through no matter what, right? That's what the whole Bible is about, God being a promise keeper to the church, people of God, who God is supplying salvation to, forgiveness, mercy, love. All these things will come to fruition, right? God will execute all these promises, and the 144,000 is going to come through unscathed. So what's ever happening around us, right, which is part of the tribulation, is just happening because God's calling it to happen. And can we explain everything and why it happened? No. We're not God. But we can say that if anybody has a problem with the way the Lord is running this, take it up with Him. Now, you might not like the, He might pull up on you. I don't really think you want that smoke. But, or else, if you don't want that smoke, then just be humble and just say, Lord, let Thy will be done, not my will.
Not like a lot of things that you said was something it brought up something that you said. I like the all things work together, because if you take that stance, then a lot of stuff wouldn't bother you on that level. But I want to add that broader question to my mind, because Bree also said something about not. It's weird to care so much about choosing policy, like for other people. You kind of want to have a standoffish approach, because you said why wouldn't you wouldn't choose somebody simply because they align with your values, and I thought that was interesting. So before I ask the main question to everybody, Bree, to you specifically, why wouldn't you want to vote for somebody that aligns with your values? Because you said, and I was like, that's an interesting thing to say. Why wouldn't you want somebody that aligns with your values?
I don't see the government as having the responsibility to do that. I do know America was founded for religious freedom. I'm not under the belief that Christianity is the American religion that the government is made to uphold. I do know that Protestant Christians were a lot of the reason for America, but I can see throughout history that I have always just understood that would change based off the needs or the desires of the people over time. And as America's becoming less majority Christian, I think we're at 63% or 64% or something like that. I'm just not expecting that. I just, it's not a given as it would have been. I think in the 70s it was 70%, or it might even been 90%. At that time, it might have been 90% at that time.
Got you. So you said values, you meant your Christian values, not your total value. You wouldn't expect America to take on your Christian values,
right?
Okay, got
Christian.
Now that makes sense. Now that makes sense. I see what you're saying now. All right. So the question I have for everybody, and I think this question, the Real Serious B is asking, was directed to Ruthless Truth, because he was he was talking because he also spoke of a little bit of a standoff, like God, what God has to do is separate, and what we have to do is one thing. Like we can't like step into God's domain. He's there to judge. He's there to control. So Ruth is truth. Would you speak to this question? What part of the Bible says we should love criminals of God's law versus prosecuting them?
Well, okay, so what part of the Bible says we should love criminals of God's law?
The criminals. Like we should like love them because the God calls us to love. And that might have been to the point that the lady made. It might actually not be to you, because one lady said love and not judge. So that actually might be to the lady in the pink that made that point about loving and not judgment. Because this would actually speak to that. We should love criminals of God's law versus prosecuting them, which is judging. So it actually might not have been to you. It just the timing of it was when you were talking. So I apologize. It might not have been to you at all.
That goes back to the lady called adultery, right?
Yeah.
Jews brought. And they asked Jesus, good master, this lady has been caught in adultery. And Jesus turned to them and said, let he without sin first cast a stone. So understandably that though we are Christians, we have Christian brothers, all of us have a sinful past or a sinful disposition that still exists in our walk. So therefore, are you going to not love your brother because you might see him doing something wrong? And the love is what? Now we got to define the love. We're not talking about kissing and hugging and all that. We're talking about understanding the delivering of the word of the message of repentance, of the message of chastisement, of the message of, that God has sent his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, in the world to die for those sins. Now, those will be the reproving message for him. So that's the love that we will achieve our brother, even though he's in fault, even though he's at fault. So yes, to love thy brother is a law, right? Is to love thy neighbor as to love thyself is a second, right? And on these two commandments hang all the laws of the prophets. So therefore, if you're being a Christian, you understand these things, that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth shall not perish and have eternal life. So as a Christian brother to another Christian brother, right, there's reverence and there's understanding. There's understanding that we got to love our brother even in his when he's doing wrong. Because we know that at the end of the day, right, that God might be doing something there to maybe show him something, chastise him, or whatever it may be, to, I would say, teach him a lesson that need to be taught.
Okay. So she clarified. Yeah, we all have sin, but at one point are action sins punishable to be enforced by humans in a civilized society?
Well, we don't.
And I was going to ask that as a follow-up too. Because we at some point, like even Christians who fall back on God, want to fully rely on God, like as citizens of this society, it would make sense to me that they would still have a vision of what order looks like based on biblical principles. Like, why wouldn't Christians want to obtain favorable conditions? Even in the Bible, people like Joseph, people like Nehemiah dealt with the ruling powers to try to get things to help their people. It was the Jewish people, but you could say as Christians, why wouldn't people try to get the government to move on their behest to make favorable conditions for Christians, whether that's prosecuting people who persecute Christians, whether that's trying to keep them from being targeted? Like, why wouldn't Christians try to influence a government towards a God-like end? So, but address her question specifically if you don't mind, but then you can bring it out to that broader point. Well, I was curious myself too.
So, okay, so let me understand. You want me to break down this question here?
Yeah, I basically have the same question. Like, I guess on the same question. I pretty much have the same question as well.
That how should Christians be treated in the laws of man and laws of the land is what you're asking?
Yeah, I know, like render unto Caesar what is due Caesar, but they're still like petitioning the government. They're still interfacing with the government to try to get things that Christians can appreciate or use that will benefit them. It's like, shouldn't Christians advocate for order and like God's principles in some capacity?
No.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because Christ is the head of all principalities and powers, right? So the potter has power over the clay, not the clay over the potter, right? So we understand that even the powers that be that seem to be, we know that God is the final authority over them as well. We understand as Christians that God is the master of the universe, right? There's nothing, even if you're a Christian and you get locked up for something, right? Understandably, we understand that God is still your ultimate master, right? He's the one causing all this to happen. He's the one bringing this to fruition. And this is who you give glory to. Just like, and the prime example is Job, right? Right? When he sinned, and when he had all the Lord told him, when he was sinned, Lord told him to go, right? And burn some bulls and goats, you and your friends, right? So therefore, render unto Caesar what Caesar. That means what that's saying is the world is going to be the world, regardless. And as Christians, when we break the laws of the land and stuff like that, does it pertain to us in the physical? Yes. But in the spiritual, we understand that we sinned against God, right? We broke his law. And God will deal with us accordingly inwardly, where the world, right, through God will deal with us outwardly, whether it be a prison sentence or whether it be probation, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, God is still, but he's not going to leave you nor forsake you in this process.
Yeah, I can respect that perspective. It's not when I should now. Just to be clear, like I grew up in the church. I'm not currently a Christian, so I'm still outside of the system. But I have like respect for Christianity, not reverence, but respect. I want to keep it clear because I may say something that might just. I've said some crazy stuff. People accuse me of blasphemy. So because you're new to the space, I just want to like level set. Like I do respect Christianity, and I like to have these conversations. I grew up in the church. I still spend time in church, but I respect your perspective based on like the totality of God being like the like sovereignty. God is sovereign, and I will play my part. I'll do what God says, and he'll make sure what needs to happen. I can respect that position.
Right. This is not negotiable.
Yeah. All right. I'm with that. Did anybody, Bree, yell at either of y'all have any like questions or follow up for Ruthless? Pull up this next video.
Nah, kind of same. Like I don't feel the need to try to sway policy to. I mean, like constitutionally, like freedom of religion is to me the most important thing. Like I think that needs to be preserved. I've said this before. People start getting at the Constitution now. We gonna have some issues. Okay, but outside of that, as long as freedom of religion is there, I don't feel the need to try to sway policy towards religious.
But to that point, Bree, once again, I'm going to be quick. As Christians, we understand that God is the master of the universe, once again, right? There's nothing outside of his hand that he can't handle.
Right. But as a citizen, if I'm going to utilize my power to vote, you know what I mean? Right, not from. But if I'm going to use my power to vote, that just would be like, because you probably say, what would move you to action? Like, that would be something that would move me to action. You see, that's what I'm saying. So if I feel like that was, if there was something I feel like my vote could actually do, because a lot of stuff you just like, I mean, this ain't really gonna, I kind of read the room. But I mean, if I felt like, okay, me voting here is important to, they're trying to take away freedom of religion, I would vote if I felt like that would, okay, I'm just gonna take a stand here. But ultimately, even if it didn't pan out, I'd still be all right. We'll figure it out. So I kind of just got that.
IG, appreciate you stopping by. El Koga, appreciate you. First timer, appreciate you for stopping in. I'm going to pull up this next video. Now, this is a podcast called Track Stars. They're going to play a clip from somebody who's got a name, known as a little bit, maybe a grifter, but she calls herself a prophetess, Tiffany Montgomery, if you've heard of her. So, but she said some stuff about abortion and choice that was interesting to me. Well, I'm only gonna play like the first 3 minutes of this video. I know it's like 30 minutes long. We're not about to go through 30 minutes. Appreciate that, El Coker. Now, listen, this is not. I have a wide variety of content, so I don't want anybody that may be watching for the first time or coming through. Like I vary all the time. This week, I just felt like Bree said, I felt an urge to go a specific way. I don't always do stuff that's related to religion. I like philosophy. I like relationship stuff. So it's all over the place. So I understand when people follow and then unfollow because I switch tracks next week. I understand. I don't take it personal. But I appreciate the time y'all do spend, especially when you participate in chat. El Koger, Ruthless Truth. I appreciate when people come in and share their perspective. I love differences of opinion. We hash out like people that I know Ruthless saw us hashing out a difference before we started this part of the topic. Actually, on topic, we were hashing out disagreements. So we do that. We try to reach understanding, not necessarily agreement. If we can agree, that'd be great, but at least understand where each other are coming from. That's kind of my ethic on that. But I'm gonna play this video real quick, and anybody needs me to pause, but otherwise I'm gonna let it play like through to the 3-minute mark.
You know, our girl Tiffany Montgomery.
Yeah, we gotta get her on the show, man. We talk about her like a lot.
Yeah, we need to get her.
This is wild.
But Tiffany Montgomery, you know, she's been saying a lot about Democrats and about Kamala Harris. She called her a witch. So she, you know, DNC was this past week. So let's hear what she had to say about
fully
that.
Persuaded that this generation absolutely hates children and hates babies. I've come to this conclusion for several reasons, but one is because of how many people are molested, raped, and unfortunately have experienced incest. And when the child develops the courage to finally tell an adult, unfortunately, the adult normally forces them to sweep it under the rug because the monster ends up being somebody that the adult loves, or they're beat and they're literally forced into silence, which follows them, unfortunately, until they're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. Also, some of you were your children's first bullies, and unfortunately, some of you have experienced being bullied by the first bully in your life, which was your mother and father. And I'm just of the thought that people just absolutely hate children. I believe that we're living in the days of King Herod. And those of you that don't know what King Herod is or who King Herod is, he was literally the you can read more about it in Matthew chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, that tried to kill Jesus when he found out that Jesus was alive and well. And King Herod did not know where Jesus was. And so he decided to put together a law that killed all babies under the age of 2 years old. That let me know that the enemy is not omnipresent, all-knowing, omniscient, only God is. So he knew that there was a deliverer that was getting ready to be born, but he didn't know where. So he developed a plan to kill all babies under the age of 2. And here we are at the DNC having Planned Parenthood, who has told you time and time again that their number one goal was to exterminate a race. And they have planted mobile demonic altars to give free abortions to anybody who wants them, as if the DNC is the appropriate place to kill a baby. Let me tell you why it's an appropriate place for them. It's because they need more blood to sacrifice to their demonic god called Moloch. Anybody that needs to get into a high-level position has to shed blood if they are not a believer, because believers, the blood was already shed for us on Calvary. With that being said, demonic blood has to be shed, and baby blood is some of the most potent blood that you can shed. This is why Planned Parenthood has put together a plan to kill babies during this time. They are literally sacrificing the blood of babies. I am telling you now, and I am telling you as loudly as I can, that this is going to render more judgment on this nation. I know many of you don't like when I say it and you don't like to hear it, but I don't care. You're going to thank God one day that he sent somebody with enough courage to tell you the truth. It's only the truth that sets people free.
Podcast. All right. So bring that out, because I guess that's how she become a prophet then, I guess. And it's real serious. I think children were a resource at one point. Now they're simply either a liability for most or a luxury for the rich. Okay. So I got a few questions for y'all. Well, first I'll let everybody tell me how that clip lands on them. Like, agree, disagree, anything land on them. So let's start with you, Ruthless Truth. What did you think about that portion of what Tiffany was saying?
It was very opinionated. It has some validity to it in the sense that, yeah, will this world be judged? Of course. Will this nation be judged? Of course. But this is what the Bible already speaks to this about these things. So she's just really regurgitating what's already been written.
With that, Bree.
It was fine. I'm to the part where she just kind of started saying what was happening. Like, they're mobile ritual thingies.
Mobile
I don't know,
altars.
whatever. Mobile
Yeah, mobile
altars.
altars.
And it was funny because when she said DNC, y'all know I do I work in surgery for like OB offices, and the DNC is a procedure. Usually they do one after an abortion. Just thought that was funny because I totally heard the procedure when she was saying DNC. I was like, huh? My brain wasn't working. So I was like, they doing DNCs? Like, I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah.
It's so funny that they called it. But yeah, when she started talking about they do this, I mean, I would want to know how she know. But that's not important to what she's saying. But I do want to know how she know. So that was the only thing. It was a little distracting. I wish she would have just like kept the message like what it was, because that's been said before, like Ruthless is saying. But then when you start to get into like, oh, they doing this and they doing that, it's like, how you know? But that's just that's not an important to the point. It just makes me want to know, like, what's her background? I'm just curious to know. She probably had said it somewhere, but I just want to know.
Yeah. Just double checking because it was a fact check about not her saying it, but other people talked about that. It looks like there was Planned Parenthood stuff a few miles away. Let me see.
Yeah. I mean, I know she's had one, but did talking about what they do with the blood and like all the stuff, all the other stuff, like that whole, they do this with it and they do that.
Well, she says she's a prophetess.
Yes,
she calls herself a prophetess.
Yeah.
I do. I don't know. I read the Bible quite a bit, and right, I never seen God use women to bring like loud messages. You know, I mean, just one part in the Bible in the Old Testament where there's a prophetess, she judge or something, but all the major books and you know, even the 12 disciples, all those things, the 12 tribes, the kings. I just seen God use for the bringing of the message. I see him use a lot of men. So I don't know if she's moving. I think she may be moving on a emotional level and use the Bible as a reference point. But you know, Lord will, you know, if she's truth, then hey, if she's not, the Lord will expose her.
All right. To her claim, I guess there was a Planned Parenthood branch nearby that was providing free medication abortion, vasectomies, and emergency contraception through the mobile health clinic in Chicago, running at the same time as the DNC. But the convention was not sponsoring or otherwise connected to those services.
Yeah, I believe
according to PBS NewsHour.
Yeah, that they had a mobile thing, but it was just all the like they're doing this with it and they're doing. It just was distracting for me. Like the message, like I just felt like
Yellow fell off. So let me ask you a question. So she had mentioned about these are the days of people that when people hate children. Does that land on y'all? Do y'all feel like this is do you feel like people today like hate and detest children? Do you feel like that's like part of the zeitgeist now? What do you think, Brie?
Yeah, I mean, children are not the same. They don't have the utility they used to. For one, I think people always had children for a lot of selfish reasons. I think children have mostly been had for selfish reasons up until now. Like it's become like they were saying, luxury. It's not really a necessity. I mean, beyond like, because agricultural society, you needed the work, you needed the hands. So I just feel like it's a luxury. It's like a nice thing, kind of like relationships too. Like you don't really need a lot of things, utility wise. So yeah, I think that just changes how people feel about it. I don't know if people just like hate kids, but a lot of parents hate their kids. But that's always been the case. So I don't know if they necessarily hate them more. I think it's just you're seeing people have the freedom to opt out of it. And if they do so happen to get pregnant, they are choosing to opt out of it still. So yeah, I think it's just more of a lack of utility. Children don't serve the parents anymore. It's like the parents serve the kids. So yeah.
I can see that. I think we did go through a little time of like pedestalizing kids. Like there was a quick 10, 20 years where it was like, oh, kids got level and the hovering and all that stuff. But it feels like everybody would be like, these kids. But what about you, Ruthless Truth? Do you feel like this is a
what you said it was all about baby, now it's get your ass out of here.
But it was a quick for a minute. It was
I think Gen Z
kids loving.
I think Gen Z was coddled a lot.
Well, I think
Yes,
that comes
quick little minute.
because though back in those days, what you were talking about, it was very value, particularly women, right, and men in relationships and marriages. Children it created great value for your image, right? As human beings, if you had kids, raise your kids, people looked up to you. People reverenced you, like, oh wow, look at this. Now, because of the single mother epidemic, kids are now they are needed because once again, the generation has to be next to take those jobs. There are tax dollars, but you don't need value if you still get value if you don't have children because now money and economic success is the forefront of a human's value, right? So people no longer value you having children and say, look at us, we're raising a family and he's going to be loyal and oh yeah, you now it's okay, what's that bank account working with, status. So what we value as humans are much more different or much more extreme when it comes to success on a monetary value. And the image is now about, well, can you make me money too?
Yep.
So back in the day, if you was a G, you OG, take him out, dudes respect you. Now it's whoever bringing the money in, right? If you ain't bringing the money, you're out the way. They're taking you out, right? And the guy who's bringing the money in, who has the resources coming in and providing, he's worship. He is the man, right? So that's just why kids are no longer the forefront. Are kids still valuable though? Yes, because a lot of women want a piece of that guy. A lot of guys want to have something with women. That's still but it's not the forefront. It's personal level.
Yes, sir. No, I definitely agree with that. We have prioritized money to the point, and kids can't earn money the way they once would have been able to go out and work. Child labor laws being what they are. But you're right. I think our preference for money, the American greed, I think that's definitely, and not even just America. Because I've seen over in Asia they're having a similar problem. Prices and culture and values have switched to very monetary, capitalistic ideals, and people are like, "No, I can't afford to have a kid because they want money for other things, and they don't want to be tied down freedom wise." What a IG? Hello, sir. He probably on the plantation. He'll unmute in 3 minutes.
What's that? Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no.
Cutting out a little bit.
Something to eat before I go to the plantation.
Okay, you're on your way. Yeah. It sounds like a little dead spotty zone.
Hold on, I'm about to probably get you off this petty ass headset. Give me a couple of minutes.
All right, cool. Got you. All right, so we talked about the mobile abortion clinics there. It wasn't actually on site as she had stated, according to PBS. I wasn't there, so I'm still going by what somebody else said. But she also spoke to like rituals and witchcraft being performed by everybody like the democrats. So how do y'all feel about? I've heard those claims for quite some time, and that children being offered to Moloch. Is that something? I know the Bible speaks to that in the Old Testament, but do you feel like that's something that people are still doing and it's prevalent in the United States of America? Is she playing on old fears, or are there legitimate concerns about what's going on and happening to children in this day and age? We'll start with you, Ruth. It's true. What you think?
Can you repeat that one more time?
The rituals, she mentioned that they were performing rituals and witchcraft using the blood of children. And I'm saying, I know the Old Testament spoke to that. And is she stoking those old fears, or are there legitimate today, right now, 2024 concerns about people using in America, people using children and their blood for rituals and witchcraft? Is that a legitimate concern for us?
On the elite level, but not on a small level. Like you talk about the elites, of course they've been doing this since forever, right? The children, whatever they do with the children, they are using ceremonies and stuff like that, Illuminati, whatever, which is something that's way out of our league, right? These people are like, these are the wealthy, these are the Dolce Gabbana, Louis Vuitton, these type of people, right? They got cliques as far as the government as well. I think Hillary Clinton was putting blood on the wall when she was trying to They was elected and stuff. So they do. Yeah, the elite is a major practice in this, but as far as the surface level people like ourselves, we don't really. It's not a big thing. Ain't nobody just going around. You know what I mean? To just ceremony their kids. This is everybody just get your bad ass to school and get good grades.
Yeah. Like,
so I don't think we
I
need.
know you're.
I don't think we need to be
What was that,
concerned with that.
Ruger?
I don't think we need to be concerned with that.
Okay. On our level, that's not what we need to be worried about. Okay. All right. Now, let me a follow up question, because a lot of people have said that's why a lot of black children are missing. Do you still like with the way the black children are missing in America, lost and missing? Do you still don't think that's correlated at all? Are these two separate issues?
That's just some badass kids running away from home, want to be the hood homies, right?
Okay.
Because this ain't happening on a middle class, upper middle class level. All these things are happening for. You got some, like I said, you got homies going out, little kids, and parents got to work 50, 60 hours a week to bring home money, and the kids are out there doing, and they're getting lost in the streets.
Okay.
But it ain't nobody just,
ask.
yeah, scooping them up and just taking them and performing things. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that it hasn't happened to a very outlier of black children. I'm not going to say that because you never know, right?
Gotcha.
But on a large, like, do we need to ramp up security in the hood? No, because nobody really wants the kids in
the hood. I hear you. Now, Bree, what about you, Miss? As a dabbler,
right?
Rituals of witchcraft. Do you think that's still a thing?
No, I mean no rituals and hoodoo,
as far as with using the
like
kids,
it's always gonna be a thing. No, I mean no, I do think there's people who do it, but not just like. I don't know. The thing is, I can't. It's just too much of a gap there. It's too much of a reach I would have to do. I can't know if she meant just like energetically when these kids are being murdered.
Ooh.
That's going into the murder pool, and then
Or
it's
actively,
shifting the energy.
Yeah.
Like
I see
if
what you're
she's
saying.
saying it that way, maybe I could say okay, maybe. Like
Yeah.
still like for most sacrifices and stuff, if you're like dedicating this sacrifice to a deity or something, you're gonna have to be ritualistic surrounding it. Like things have to be done a certain way at a certain time, so it's still a reach. Because I don't think you can just like take credit for like a murder across town and be like, let this blood of that murder work for this over here. Like that's still a reach for me.
I get you.
So like and like I've been in clinics, like I mean there I didn't notice any magical places where these things were happening she was talking about. I've had people say we steal placentas at the hospital and use them for things. I don't know what room that's happening in. So I've never seen these things. And I've worked in women's health and childbirth and stuff. So I don't know. So it just feels like a big reach that she's making to be right.
Gotcha.
It feels not. It just feels like a reach.
Yeah, I mean she's got a history. She stretches a lot of things. I mean it's probably more fear mongering than any truth to it. And I do believe with both of y'all. There's probably, of course, there's going to be somebody somewhere that's doing everything on this planet. So is it happening? Sure, but is it happening in numbers that we need to be concerned about? The way she's putting it, I doubt it, and especially not at the DNC. Not at the DNC. And then when we read it, if it's true, they were offering like Plan B pills. They weren't they weren't performing.
Plan B
procedures,
pills
so.
aren't technically even abortion. Like that's
so,
there's like nothing even happening there when you take a Plan B pill. Like you haven't.
I can't
even
imagine what ritual you could perform if that's true that they were only offering the pills. I can't imagine what but they were doing vasectomies though. That's a procedure. I don't know, so I can't say it's true. That's just what PBS reported. What's up, IG? You back?
Yeah, I'm kind of still at this place, but can y'all hear me? Is this better?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just find it interesting that people who have very ritualistic practices in their texts kind of want to kind of blow the whistle on everybody's ritual. It's like if you take communion, you engage in symbiotic cannibalistic blood magic ritualism. If not, didn't Yahshua test the will of faithfulness of Abraham to be willing to sacrifice, to see if he would be willing to sacrifice his children? his son Isaac. You know what I'm saying? I kind of just find like that's interesting that people whose doctoral text in its antiquity have very magical, esoteric ritualisms in their practices, but want to make it seem as if but I get it though, because I'm a heathen, you know what I'm saying? I'm the resident heathen here, you know what I'm saying? And as a heathen who do not subscribe to the religion of the spiritual practices of the state, it's different from me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just giving rootless truth a little bit. I know that it's real, not because it's thus says the Lord thy God. No, it's thus says the Lord thy government for me. There's never been a situation where there's a separation of church and state. It's impossible for anybody's religious or society. There's freedom of religion in America. That doesn't mean that you still don't have a dominant text, because when y'all talk about policy and everything, it's not really like you were saying. It's goofy. I agree, but unfortunately, it's kind of like that is what it is. So she's using those same whistleblowing techniques because see, these Christians people know they do rituals and they believe that their rituals have power. So anything that is outside of the scope of what is their dogma or their doctoral text, they will demonize it. So, I mean, if you weren't about ritualism, I said, hell, I think it's ritualistic that you think the first penis is the first vagina comes from all penis derived ingredients. That's very fucking ritualistic to me in the thought in itself. So I don't see how you can't get any more allegorical than some of the things that are in the text itself. So it's like calling the kettle black for me personally.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. All right. So listen, this is the last portion that I want to get into. I'm gonna try to wrap up at the 3 hour mark, which is 45 minutes from now. So I have one video, and it's taking the abortion and bringing it more specifically to Black people, bringing in the Planned Parenthood Margaret Sanger connection. Again, if y'all need me to pause it, I can pause it. We can talk. Otherwise, I'll pause it at certain points and bring up a question to you guys. But let me bring the video in. Woo, let's go.
You are fully aware of the overturning by the Supreme Court of Roe versus Wade. Again, I say my prayers are for the women of America.
But as a man that can't carry or give birth to children, I recognize that it is not my place to decide what.
Okay, I'm glad they said that because I think oh my gosh, earlier. Sorry, I'm sidetracked already. Now, I feel it ain't this was DJ Dose. I feel it ain't my business what a woman does with her body. And I've heard that. Men shouldn't have an opinion on that. I want to ask y'all what y'all feel. Because I have a hard time believing that. Again, I know Brother Ruthless said, like, God's in control. God's I get that. But as far as me, I don't ascribe to that specifically. I do believe all citizens have a perspective on everybody that impacts them. What people do we impact each other. So I feel like people can have a say, whether it's through their vote or not. It should be limited. Like if you're not going to take the responsibility, if you're not, footing the bill for certain things, yeah, you should be limited in how much say you have. But I think everybody, I think women should have a say about what men are doing, what we're doing. Like, what are we doing? People can be reckless and it impacts you. And I think that's okay to say we impact each other, men, women, children. We speak for children all the time. So why can't men speak for women? Why can't women speak for men? Because we are involved and intertwined. So that's my thing when I see that men can't speak. So that's me. But I want to know what y'all think. I mean, of course, if y'all completely disagree, but IG, I know you last man in the panel. What do you think about that? A man shouldn't have anything to say about what a woman does with her body.
Yeah, see, it's within context, right? It's not like it's an overall. Okay, if you're going to play the patriarchal, traditional idealism of relationship, so even outside of just deleting the children, can we say the abort word, right? Yeah. Even outside of that, as marriage goes, you still are not permitted to make certain decisions without your partner. So within the context of people who are who are deciding to have traditional heteronormative relationships, I think that's a reasonable thing to have your husband involved with that, especially if it's a thing where, okay, you two are in a household, you two are having sex, you two are trying to do other things besides just procreating. I think in that context. Now, when it comes to people who aren't necessarily had women who are having children, who aren't trying to, like, they just got pregnant with someone, they're not trying to build the future. I don't think that man should, if he didn't have enough sense, and I don't think marry before you carry is the right, but I'm saying according to the context of where we live in the West and how marriage is institutionalized, then yeah, I don't think a man, if you didn't think to marry her before you got her pregnant, then you don't have the right to determine. She's not tied to you
Yeah,
in that aspect. So for me, that's what I'm saying. Now, I don't think generally, yeah, I think that's kind of gross that married men or the gazes of married men are deciding what single women do.
yeah,
And that's where the nuance goes for me. When I say
yeah.
as in affecting men, but you feel what I'm saying? When it comes to that abortion rule, like I said, I only think it's only applied for married people who are married through the state and not common law.
Okay. What about you, Rufus? How do you feel about that?
I'm I'm along the same line, just nuances, right? Just them nuances. Oops, maybe, right? Who's really gonna talk about that anyway, right?
Right.
But if it's coming down to me and her building, you know, we are building a legacy, a foundation, whatever. Yeah, this discussion needs to be had, right? And
Yeah.
obviously, if we're building, and both of us have talked about kids, and we stop using contraceptives and stuff like that, yeah, then yeah, like I said, we both of us have already agreed that this child's coming to fruition if it enters. So yeah, and if she has a change in the heart for some unknown reason, then we definitely need to have this conversation. I do agree with that. The only problem I do have is the country we live in is so pro individualism,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this could take a very large turn, very bad turn, if she just says, you know what, I don't want to keep this kid, and I don't care what you say, right? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to get rid of it tomorrow. And literally, it's out of our hand, right? Or if we do something, it be consequences that are dire more than just, maybe probation. There's going to be definitely some jail time. So yeah, so in that aspect, we do have to be hopefully that we can stay in negotiation with our partner and that we can keep that connection, that line of commitment in there. It should go well. But if it doesn't, boy, it's going to be a very hurtful process. So
Yeah.
women should want to talk to us if they're going to build with us.
No, I'm definitely in agreement with both of you guys. And I like, as far as contact within a couple, I do believe there should be like some, like you said, there should be negotiation. And because I know I would call it like if somebody was partnered and one person, if the man got a vasectomy and they were, they thought they thought they were trying for a family, and the man got a vasectomy and didn't tell her, that would be a form of infidelity. Likewise, if she got pregnant, she never told him, and she wouldn't got an abortion, that would be a form of infidelity because like that's you're not being faithful to the vows and honest. You're not being honest. You're not being truthful. Like, so that would be problematic. But as far as like in general for me, I do think as far as policy, people can try to influence policy through their vote. But you're right though. Single person who hasn't gone through marriage, haven't made a commitment, they shouldn't have a right of any kind to say what the other partner can do with their body. So I do agree with that. But I believe everybody should be able to have a say. Everybody can have a voice, but everybody
and,
can't make somebody else's choice. Like
and
voice
that's
over choice.
and that's what I'm saying is that's when I have this conversation, and I'm not just not to just push back, but I just find it disingenuous when people really try to make it seem as if they do not see that there really is no disconnection, because the only reason why we're having the context of this conversation because there is freedom of religion, not from religion. We are carrying Judeo-Christian values of traditional relationships. So for that not to be the norm isn't because, oh, these people who came from Europe decided to come. No, they brought their Catholicism, they brought their Judaism, they brought all these other things with them when they came and created this quote unquote new world country. So that's why I don't know. I think it has to take some cognitive dissonance, because I think for most people that are in that faith, if you did see it for how it like why it's, I would say, real without the belief, then it would be kind of dark. You know what I'm saying? It would feel kind of dark if you could see how this is actually instituted, not because it's thus said the Lord thy God, it's thus said the Lord thy government, it's thus said the Lord thy 1619 project, it's thus said the Lord thy God Homestead Acts, it's thus said the big. You see what I'm saying? So I don't see how people disconnect. Not y'all, but just in general, it's almost like we try to do this thing in America, like we're saying we're so freedom of religion, but everything is respectability politics around a certain specific religion. You know?
No, I'm definitely with you. Now, Bree, what do you think about as far as men telling women what to do with their bodies? How do you feel about us menses trying to tell you what to do with your bodies?
I mean, politics. I mean, there are men and women involved. So when you're talking about policy, like, I mean, they're gonna be in the conversation, whether we like it or not. But do I think they should ultimately have the choice? Obviously, no. So no. But if you're in a relationship, I kind of mostly pretty much agree with all of that. Like, you're in a relationship, then yes. But if you're not, then kick rocks.
You don't
But
have a right
obviously
to
the
somebody else's
discussion of
body.
it, the discussion of it's gonna include men because politics, men are there. So I mean, it don't bother me to hear men talk about their opinion of it.
Yeah, that's cool. Appreciate that. And I'm actually going to abbreviate that because in hindsight, I know I'm gonna let this play out for about 3 minutes because they go the long way to say something I can simplify. So I'm gonna let them at least make the point because they're letting guys say right now about these first few dudes are pro-choice. I'm gonna let them talk and I'm gonna see how far they get into it because one guy they have a whole like 5-7 minutes of a sermon. I'm gonna just cut that down to like a couple sentences and then we can talk about it.
The woman can and cannot do with her body.
To see how we're cheering our own demise.
This argument, this issue can never be stated or proclaimed enough. And I want to take a backseat a little bit and let Bishop Wooden, as he so eloquently does, I want to let him give a defense and call out some of these preachers who should not be there. These are people who are not only traitors to the gospel, but those who happen to be Black are also traitors to Black people. As a matter of fact, any particular human being, he not only is a traitor to the gospel, to God, but he's also a traitor to mankind.
Slavery, when it ended, all of a sudden we had a population problem. I'm preaching. All of a sudden there were too many of us. There weren't too many of us when we were slaves. Couldn't make enough. Make the slave have sex with his own mother. Hence the word mother. You finish it. It was a wicked time. But God set us free. The nation went at war with itself to end slavery. Now there are those historical revisionists that says, well, the Civil War had nothing in the world to do with slavery. Well, whether it did or didn't, when it was over, the emancipation took place.
Too many people, too many preachers, particularly too many Black preachers, are more Black than they are biblical. And one of the things they always want to bring up is something having to do with slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow. But they never want to bring up this issue. They never want to bring up race in regard to this issue. And they should. And there's a reason why. We'll get to that in a little bit.
But Margaret came along, her and the eugenicist movement. We got too many people, 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 too many people.
And you need to understand who he's speaking about. She simply just did not like Black people. Now, she was also obviously not a Christian, but she didn't like Black people, and she thought there were just too many, unless, as he said, unless we were slaves. Now, she wasn't around during slavery, but I'm pretty sure without question she would love to have seen this because she thought that we were low people, that we didn't have the intelligence, we didn't have the self-control. And let's just be honest, in some cases, we kind of prove her point by what we're doing. We are not victims in our own demise. We are participants in our own demise. So she comes around and she wants to offer a means by which we could eliminate ourselves, reduce ourselves. Now, how do you go to Black people and convince Black people to get rid of themselves?
And Ruth Bader Ginsburg, before she died, you know, she was sick. And I think that part of her brain stopped working that tells you not to say things you shouldn't say. She said before she died, with Roe, we went too far. in the passage of Roe. She said, I thought we wanted to get rid of those kinds of people that we didn't want to have too many of. Now, let's go back to 1970. In 1970, when Roe was passed, the major two populations in America was black and white. Ruth was not talking about getting rid of white folk.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pause it there because that's the crux of the argument. So people that are pro-abortion, especially pastors specifically, he was calling them traitors to the faith, traitors to mankind, and traitors to the race because it was a population control tool that was aimed at culling black people, aimed at making sure that our population was lower, and it's something that we've been groomed into participating in. So that's something that's kind of like the supposition. I don't want to play the whole 13-minute video because I think a lot of us have heard about Margaret Sanger, the racist and the eugenics. A lot of us have heard that, and a lot of us know the kind of numbers that black people in specific ascended to as far as how many abortions we were having per year. At some point, it got up close to like 700,000 a year, and so it was a lot of babies, a lot of potential. So that's kind of where they go with it. But I want to hear what y'all think, and then I know we spent like an hour and 15 minutes on another topic, so I'm not really giving this the time I wanted to give it because there's another video I'm cutting out. I want to go support Yella with the wrestling stuff, but I want to hear what y'all think about as far as the traitor to the race at the racial aspect of how it's harming black people and the black community. IG, if you're with us, go ahead, tell me what you think, bro. Oh, like he inside somewhere else. Can't talk right now. All right, let's move over to Ruthless. Ruthless, what you think? He's in motion. IG's in motion. So, Ruthless, what you think about that?
I really don't understand why the Christians are getting involved in these things, right? Because we ultimately know that everything that God says is going to happen is going to come to fruition. So God is the creator of human life. So for us to come and say, I'll go back to slavery and talk about that, I try to say that we're under attack or whatever to try to get rid of whatever. We understand that ultimately God is the control, right? So you can't. It's like how you say it's a walking paradox, right? You want to praise God on Sunday, talk about God did this for me, oh God did that for me, and then you want to come and complain about Roe versus Wade. Yeah. Do I agree with Roe versus Wade? I don't care, right? Because it don't matter to me. I know that whoever God wants on this earth is going to be on this earth. Whoever God don't want on this earth is not going to be on this earth. And I truly believe that. So whether women want to go up in the world about their body and choice, whatever, I don't care. But if men want to talk about their after black, I don't know. The bottom line is, right, we do understand that we are living in the last days. We do understand that God is going to be victorious no matter what. Right? He can't be defeated, right? We do understand that God is the Alpha and the Omega. So we do not have to worry about the things that seem to be worrisome. I'm talking about the Christian church, right? That's what I'm speaking to. The people who proclaim the faith that, oh yeah, we're Christ, we believe that God is all powerful, but then want to go and complain to the government or have a sermon about what the world is doing or how the world view things. When we know ultimately, and I will land it, we know ultimately that God's going to have his way. God is not going to lose this battle. And I'll land it there.
I want to say, Ruthless Truth, I'm glad that you came up. I appreciate the perspective that you bring of with God being in control. I like the way you frame it. Because on this platform, I've never heard it until you said it. And I also want to segue over to Bree. I apologize to you for my misogyny, because until I heard a man say what he said, I never recognized that that's what you pretty much say all the time. Like you kind of lean into Jesus and his sovereignty and don't put too much pressure and worry on the daily things of life. You say that all the time, but I didn't hear it until Ruthless said it. I'm like, nah, this got to be my misogyny. I can't hear a woman's voice say something. I can't hear it.
My frequency too high for you peasants.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It's something.
It's all right.
But what did you think about
the
about blackness, because the supposition from the guy was that people who are pro-choice are essentially they're betraying the body of, they're betraying the principles of Christ. They're betraying blackness. Like you're a race traitor because it was a tool to kill and cull and mitigate the population of black people. So it's on multiple levels, it's a betrayal. But as far as race specifically, the betrayal of black people by participating in abortion, what do you think about that?
That just never works on me. So I can't relate to that moving me at all. Like if I was out here really just getting abortions, that would not move me.
Good.
Because I mean, there's so much that comes with blackness. There's so many different struggles that come with it, and like statistics, and I'm like, okay, so you're gonna throw that at me, but then like, okay, let's just say I know some women who had like 10 abortions. I'm like, you know what? I can't even imagine she had like 10 kids.
Lord.
She's struggling with the 4 she ain't had 4. I don't know. I can't relate. I cannot relate enough to possibly understand what type of person it would take to be there. But I also know that person is living an experience I don't understand. So to me, it's just the shaming and like, you're not black, because black people protect stuff all the time that was meant for our destruction. I mean, and then to be a black Christian in the church in America, and then tell a black person that they ridiculous for partaking in something that was meant to destroy black people, when you a whole black Christian going to a black church. Like, that's crazy to me. I mean, so we gonna call a spade. We gonna pull that card. Then, well, what about you? You over here in the church, and we know what the slaves was getting as far as their version of Christianity. I mean, so I don't know. That's just weird to me. Like, how you gonna try to one up me? That's just weird. That's weird.
Yeah. So let me ask you a follow-up, because I know a long time ago when we talked about love, you talked about love as kind of like investing in like to bring forth the fulfillment, like the promise of a person, the potential of a person.
Right.
And you talked about like Jesus, like the ultimate, like God, the way God loves us is to want to see the potential of a person realized and actualized.
Right.
So participating in like abortion would be snuffing out a potential before it even has any chance at all.
That's why murder is terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why as a Christian, I wouldn't do it. Like I did it before I was a Christian.
Yeah.
Like before I was saved, I did it. I mean, and I didn't feel no type of, I mean, I'm not gonna say I didn't feel no type of way about it, but I had no moral reason to feel a type of way about it beyond oh, this sucks. I wish I didn't have to do this, and whatever feelings came from that. Yes, but like that was before I was saved. Like
the procedure didn't carry any weight. Like that didn't, like there was more weight to
I always
procedure.
say this. I was morally, in my natural state, unchanged from any outside influence spiritual wise. I'm very morally gray. You're gonna be hard pressed to get me to feel any particular way about much. I live in a very neutral state. I'm not moved by a lot. So no, if it wasn't for that, literally my morality is the only reason I would not do it. And that is because of that. Like, you're snuffing out potential.
Yeah.
I'd rather do whatever I needed to on the front end to try to not have a kid I didn't want. You know, that's just how I see it now. Like, be popping Plan B pills. Y'all don't have to put my face up in here. Come up in here all the time. I mean, it's a lot of stuff you can do before we get to an abortion. I mean, there's just a lot of things available, at least to me. So, I just would do whatever it took to not end up in that space. But some people got kinks, you know, breeding kinks. They got to reel it in. You got to reel it in.
Yeah, that's true.
Just all I'm just saying.
I got you. Appreciate that. IG. I don't know if you can hear us. I don't know if you're with us. I know you're in a place, you're in an establishment. So I don't even know if you can talk. But if you can hear me, let me know. All right, I'm assuming he's still under. He's
in
busy.
duress.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Oh, he dropped out. All right, so listen, I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up. And again, I apologize for anybody that really wanted to hear this conversation because there was another video I wanted to get to, but I want to go support somebody, and so I'm cutting this a little short.
No, that's cool.
Ruthless Truth, Bree. I'm gonna go to Ruthless Truth first. Thank you again for coming up on the panel. A lot of people don't come. We drop the link. I know everybody doesn't like to share their perspective or be judged for it or whatever, but we like challenge, push back different opinions. So thank you for being willing to come up. I enjoyed your perspective, and I think I grew from it because now I can hear Bree. I'm serious when I say that. I can hear Bree what she's been saying for about 2 years now. I can hear her differently because of the way you framed it. And it's embarrassing to say, but I'm serious when I say that. I can hear Bree's rhetoric differently once I heard you say what you said.
Well,
so
thanks,
first,
Ruthless, for mansplaining belief for
it's a trip. Like in my own head, it's a trip knowing that like I it's fully contextualized a different way what you've been saying because of the words Ruthless chose. So it's funny how language and gender plays into things. But Ruthless, if you could give us like some thoughts on like the topic and then close us out. If you have a platform that you want to share, a business you want to shout out, but like start with like on the topic, anything you want to say that maybe we didn't get to. Like you can take some time. You ain't got to rush through it or nothing.
Yeah. So once again, right? That's why I love the topic. And I've been, you usually don't come. I've seen your show before. You don't be saying that, but when I've seen your topic, and I'm not really perhaps trying to call any individual, but as Christians, right, trying to proclaim this greatness of God and laying out the name of Jesus Christ in everyday prayers and requests, and then turn around and say and complain to those who are inferior to Jesus, who are inferior to God, right? And say, oh well, you're going against God's principle. Or so are you saying they're defeating God? I really don't think that's going to happen. So it's definitely a total contradiction. So my advice to all the Christians out here, I know they ain't all going to hear me, but understand that God is not going to lose, right? The Bible, if you read the Bible in its totality, you will see that God is aggressive. God's a gangster, right? He pulling up on people, smashing, right? God wiped out, I can't even remember, right? So if God was losing or even frustrated, right? He would just wipe everything out and start over. he doesn't have to explain to nobody. He doesn't have to ask questions. Why you guys doing it? He just wipe you out. He can wipe out this whole nation, build another nation, all within days, right? So once again, if you're going to be as believers, we need to understand that everything's all right. It is not our duty. It is not our duty to try to the things that we see around us to try to check it. If you see abortion or people getting deleted or all the things that go on are they evil? Yes. But God's going to deal with that in his time and on his premise. All we can do is just understand that even when we mess up and when we make mistakes, like everybody else, that we do have someone to give us wisdom in time of trouble, and that is God himself. And he's going to guide us through this surgically. He's going to execute everything he said in the Bible. So if you do not believe the Bible is true and you have one foot in, one foot out, I suggest you just leave the Bible alone. Go off and live your life. Don't worry. Don't get gray hairs about the thing that's going on, because ultimately, men and women, we are not the creators of life and death. We don't hold the keys to that. We're here because God wants us here, and we're going to be here
Can I give you
as
some
long as
pushback though with that?
And I'm going to land it.
But can I give you some pushback? See, I just strongly disagree. I think that's kind of like a cop out. Because I tell people all the time, I'm not afraid of Jesus or God of the pitchfork. No, I'm afraid of you people who live here who determine what happens in policy off of what you believe. The devil and the ideal of eternal damnation doesn't scare me. The people who, while I yet live, who believe that how they institute government, that is more scary for me. So no, you do have the effect of power of life and the death. Because we're having this conversation about abortion and stuff like that between men and women. No, you do have the heaven and hell to put people in. To certain people, when they were teaching Bible one way, the slaves were thought that's what it was, but their life was a living hell. But to the people who was teaching them, they probably felt like they were in nirvana. So I that's the only thing that kind of that really gets me about that particular faith, because it's like a cop out. You will say that, oh, he's in control while you do his will, but then when you're the one of the faces of his will, all of a sudden the evil, if he's the creator according to you of everything, then that's everything. That means the good, the bad, the ugly, indifferent. That's why I personally do deityism. But I think that's kind of a lack of irresponsibility. Because if you can go around doing terrible things to people and all you have to do is say a spell, I'm sorry, repent, and it gives you the subconscious comforts to know that I can do these terrible things here while I yet live. But my subconscious soul, intrapersonally, I have redemption. And to me, that is, we have the results of what that looks like in this country. We have the
So I
1619.
so I agree, I understand you. I hear your sentiments, right? But you're not a Christian, so I can't expect you to
Well, no,
understand the
yeah.
things. I can't
Well, I
expect
was
you to
a
understand.
Christian. I
I
will
can,
say this. I grew up in that
I
faith, but
can,
my folks,
watch this though.
are
Let me,
shamanists until we from New Orleans.
uh,
So we have
once
the
again,
mix.
right? The things of God, the things of God is exclusive to the people of God, right? So I cannot understand. I mean, I can understand that you can't understand how we think. So it's understandable, right? I don't expect you to understand the level of understanding how we look at the Bible. So
No,
as a
I'm not saying how you look at. No, it's not how you look. It,
I'm gonna give it right back to you, Green. I'm gonna give it
but
right
it's
back to
not
you.
how you look at the
I'm almost
Bible.
done. I'm
It's how
almost done. I'm
you
gonna give it
it's how
back to you.
you live
I'm gonna give
here
it back
and
to
interpret
you,
it. It's not how
Green.
you personally
All
look at
right.
it.
I am not. I'm gonna give it right back to you. Just let me get the thought out. So all I'm saying is, right. So just so you be clear, I'm not putting any pressure on you to know what I know or to believe the way I believe. Right? It takes God to know God. You know what I'm saying?
Which God?
Hey, that's you know, right? So once
No,
again,
no. Which God are we talking about? We talking about Krishna,
I'm
Allah, Buddha.
you
Which
know,
God? Which region of God we're talking about?
God is he's a person who can represent himself, right? So he doesn't really need me to tell you. You already know.
Well,
So
no, well, no, no. I no. According to what you
and so
believe.
then
Well,
as a heathen, right, that you represent, right?
yeah, I'm a heathen because I don't follow the state religion. Don't mean I'm not
Right.
a spiritualist.
Once again,
That's
once
what a
again,
heathen is.
right. You are in the belief you believe in. But the point is, and I'm gonna land it because I want my man R to get to where he got to get to. Is God is the author and finisher of this book. Right? I'm not God. I can't
Oh,
make you believe the way I believe. So therefore, you don't understand the things I'm saying. I can understand that
no,
about
I
sovereignty.
do, but you're being
But you do
vague.
this. You will do this, IG. You will do this. You shall bow before the mighty God, and He will
Yes,
deal with
every knee shall bow, every tongue, right? Because that's a declaration. The Bible says that every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess. The same people who canonized your 1619 canonized English Bible are the same ones who ran your Atlantic slave trade. So for you, it's prophetic. For me, it's a political agenda because it's institutionalized. So yes, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. That is not a
that. What?
declaration
They
of
confess
love
what?
and peace.
They confess
That's
what?
a declaration of
Jesus
conquerorship. So
Christ is
yeah,
Lord.
that's a very
That's,
mortal thing, though.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
mortal thing.
So that's no
That's a
moral
mortal
to
thing.
me, and that is
That's
the
mortal.
premise. That is the premise to my statement.
All right. So real quick, IG, since you back with us, let me get the answer to the question I was trying to ask. I know you were in a facility, in a restaurant, or whatever.
Next time, R.
I appreciate Rugal True. Definitely appreciate you. Seriously. IG, I wanted to get your answer to this question as far as abortion and how it affects the Black community. It was brought up as Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood. I know you know that through line, eugenicist and all that stuff. What do you feel
Right.
about now? Because it was presented as it being a betrayal of the Black race to participate and advocate
Uh,
for choice and
it's shipping.
abortion.
It's shipping concern. It's shipping concern. Something my father used to say. Plenty of men they cultivate with they procreate with everything, but they cultivate nothing. If you had that same ritual, and the Bible also tells you to be stewards of your seed. Now, I'm not a Christian, but I can quote this shit because it's part of my culture, and I understand the
Okay.
institutionalized part of it without it being deitized. So, Yes, according because it's a patriarchal institutional type of religion here. So for the males, yes, if you're going to do that, then that also means too, fathers not provoke your children unto wrath. You must be the provider. You must be the protector. So the Bible doesn't say women can go around and procreate and cultivate nothing. If Black American men really did feel the way they are gonna be now, then you would not just be aimlessly procreating and not cultivating anything. So if we really cared about that, we wouldn't be talking about the aimless amount of children that we are aborting that we don't want, that we don't want LGBTQ to date. We don't want all of these children, all these things. No, that's bullshit. It's shifting concern. If you really cared, you would cultivate the seed and the life that you bring here. Why are you concerned about the life that's not here and you neglect the life that you've made? It makes no sense. I think it's just a shift of concern. Just try to shift the blame to stop them from being accountable for the fuckery that they did. So
Gotcha.
no, I don't. That's a cop out. That's a cop out to me. Whenever time I hear that, how you gonna hold? And then you gonna want to tell black women, well, I'm a black man, and I expect you to have these sensitivities to me as this system. But then when you're in a society of patriarchy that goes against all women, and you include race, now all of a sudden you compartmentalize the shit different. Do you see how goofy that is? Do you see how ass backwards? And that's I wish your boy wouldn't have ran, because that's what I'm saying. Not ran, because that's the thing. I'm very familiar with the Septuagint and everything. See, I studied this thing. That's what I'm saying. When people, and the Bible says that too, you can't speak vaguely about Yeshua. You got to declare. When I ask you which God you talking about, you talk about the God of Abraham. You're talking about the God of Isaac. You're talking about Shemitic. You're talking about the Northeast Africa of Tunisia. That is not the God of all over the world. There are parts of the region of the continent who don't even know who the fuck Abraham or Yeshua is. So that's why for me, when I kind of want to get more into that, because which God are you talking about? Because God is regional. God is obviously not universal. You have to be intellectually and spiritually kind of like disillusioned to at this point to hear people say, "Hey, I don't even have this system of God. Hey, I don't even have the system," but yet you still think that's because your God is institutionalized with your government. Your God is incorporated in your society. And here's the thing: I'm not just saying that to beat up on Christianity, but that's even with spiritual systems. Nobody has a system in society, but right here, sir. Thank you very much. Nobody has a system. I don't give a damn that where you're telling me that their spiritual system or religion is not incorporated with the laws and guidelines. That's being disingenuous when you have these type of conversations. That's the problem we allow people to do. We let them speak vaguely. No, the Bible was not built. This country is not built over some omnis God. No, you're talking about Catholicism, Roman Catholicism to be precise. You could say how it's hijacked this, that, and the third now, but no, it's a very specific thing. That's why I don't understand. Not understand, but it just kind of gets me. So no, it's weaponizing competence. It's shifting the blame, because my father called and said, "Black men, we procreate with everything and cultivate nothing." If you gave a damn about what you were talking about, you would have cultivated the lives, not worry about the ones again that are not yet lived. Shift concern, boo.
Now I can respect and accept that one, because when I've had conversations about who's responsible for what in the black community, because I believe in like patriarchal thinking, I would put most of it on the men. So like you said, the cultivation, like that means one, we have cultivated a place where women feel like they don't have the means or the desire to take care of the children that they're creating, and they're creating those with us. So we have a heavy-handed part in that. So I can hear that with the blame shift. I can hear that and accept it. But Breezy, what do you think about that? Did I already ask you
Well,
about
I mean, because I
the
was
betraying the
talking
black
about
people?
it. Yeah, you asked me about that. I thought you meant like what he said, but I was just
Okay.
like, I
But
mean, I kind of
go
took
ahead,
the
jump in that.
same
Go ahead.
stance earlier that like it's not because like historically, I think America was more of a Christian nation. So I think we are
Yeah.
moving policy to match the makeup of America more as it evolves. And there's always like going to be pushback. So for me, it's not that like I can see the Christianity in everything. I mean, they swear on the Bible. I mean, we know the Christian. That's why I say America has a culture of Christianity. Even when people are like secular, like there's still a culture of Christianity just ingrained in the fabric of America. But I do think that will change. I think as the percentages of people who are Christian change, so too will policies reflect that. And we're almost at we getting closer to an even split.
It's dipping.
If we ain't there,
it's
we ain't already
too.
there, then we about to be. So I'll be curious to see what happens with that swing. So I kind of see things as going, and so just me as I'm not really, but that's also I've just never really been about politics, but that's more than likely because I was raised Jehovah's Witness to anything. I mean, that just kind of always felt like it maintained a certain level of, they were just like, even when laws go against them as an organization, they would be like, I mean, that ain't our fight.
Yeah.
They would just be like, if the laws say we can't meet, then I guess we're gonna try to meet in secret, and then when we get locked up, we're just gonna be in there together. Like that was just
in the name of Jesus. Yeah.
That was kind of always their stance. So maybe it is a pacifist stance, but I mean, that's just kind of like I found that it preserves a lot of peace for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm just
too that's a pacifist stance.
Some people would say
like
it's pacifist because you don't
y'all
fight.
Would defy. Yeah, but you would still defy if they tried to prevent you from serving the Lord. You would defy the government.
Yeah, they would.
You know what I'm saying? So that's something too. Like I don't know what the word is for it, but that's something.
Yeah. So I mean, I still kind of feel that way now. Like I understand that, like, because I'm a Christian, I just have the privilege of generally the laws historically have worked to my. But I wasn't even Christian until like 10 years ago. So I wasn't even Christian 10 years ago.
Even if you're not a Christian, though, anything that's connected to Judaism or Hebraism, there's a cultural respect. There's a benefit.
Exactly.
They don't have to be Christianity.
So that's why I mean, like, even as Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, that's what generally speaking, we just had the privilege that because we're in America, the laws have not been against us, you know. But that could change. I do feel like that could change any day. And so that's kind of just how I feel. It's not that I take that stance only when it benefits me. I mean, I would still say the same thing, even when it didn't, because I've been on the other side. So I mean, I don't know. I just feel like having been on the other side, I don't feel like as a Christian that's my space to like be like, oh, don't have this law, don't, knowing that there are very much so people that exist who don't believe what I believe. It's just really hard for me to move myself to put energy into that. So yeah,
I'm with you. Well, listen, I know you getting ready to head in. IG, give us. I'm getting ready to go support.
Yeah, I'm out.
Give me Yarbri. All right, peace. IG, give me some closing thoughts, man, on the topic. Anything you want to share about anything else, man? Just go ahead and hit us with like a little closing, salvo.
I wish I would have got in from most of it because I was getting bits and pieces of it. Yeah. I do thank you for creating this space. I would love to have that conversation.
You breaking up? Can you like take 2 steps to the left? I'm breaking up.
Better?
Yeah, it started freezing up. Hold up.
I
think I heard you better, but the picture's frozen, but I can hear you clear. Yeah, chopped suey, chopped up, chopped and screwed. No, I heard him.
Better? Am I back?
Picture's better. Yep, there we go. There you go. Yeah, because
what about the sound?
Yeah, let's go. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wish I would have been able to get in the start of the conversation, but that's why I like to have these conversations because, I like people be on the opposite end. Like brother was, I'd love to have that conversation. So no, let's address which God are you talking about? Because see, when you let people say that to you, to me, I think it's like it's a tactic that they use to disarm you. Because if you just say God, but nobody has a God where it's just the God of everything. No, it's a God of a particular culture. It's a God of a particular nationality. It's a God that's attached to a whole historical culture. It's not ever in universal. So yeah, with politics, not just here in America. I just think the only thing we suffer from America is that we have a lot of spiritual cognitive dissonance. Because we're also one of the greater countries represented in power, we really believe that our form of spirituality is just that superior. So especially that's on top of being American, because Christianity and Judaism beliefs in America has a different total feng shui than it does in all of the other European countries. So that's why I challenge people, like what you see when old boy said, he went with the scare tactics. You're right. You're gonna be da da da. And I said, and you see how I agreed with him. I said, oh no, sir, I'm already here. I'm already bowing. I'm already confessing. I'm already paying taxes. I'm already renting to Caesar what it sees. We're here now. You see what I'm saying? We're here now. So I'm already bowing and confessing. Even though I'm not saying Jesus is Lord, I'm living underneath the laws and constitutions and statutes of such laws put in place from such premise. There ain't no other way but to say that he is Lord, even if I do not physically, literally say he is Lord. My actions say that he is Lord, not because Lord of my life. No, Lord of my government, Lord of my policy, Lord over my military. So I enjoyed that, man. Thank you so much. Peace and love to everybody. Peace and balance, baby. Y'all take care.
Appreciate you, IG, Bree, Ruthless, and Ruthless Truth, and Yellow Man. Appreciate all y'all for being part of the conversation. Everybody that tapped in the chat. If you've watched this far into the replay, put a baby in the comment section. If you're watching the replay and you watch this far, put a baby in the comment section. That's ignorant. I have a poor sense of humor. All right. Anyway, anybody that's here, just tapped in, lurking. Appreciate the couple people that are just lurking. One of them might be Bree. I'm about to go catch Yellow. He's over there on Take It Home podcast. They're doing a wrestling thing. We're doing wrestling on Saturday. So if you're into wrestling, check it out. It'll be on this channel on Saturday. Got the bottle. Yeah, so y'all, appreciate y'all. I am getting ready to head out. It's in the stream. Tomorrow it was going to be divorce, but I'm gonna attack divorce onto sexuality in a specific way. I'm bringing something else into it. So tomorrow's going to be more like divorce is going to be tacked onto sexuality in Christian relationships. Like abstinence, celibacy, and the sexual dynamics in the Christian church and relationships. So I'm gonna bring that in together. Hopefully, people will pull up. We can have a conversation. Should be interesting. Hope y'all have a good night. I'm out.